Welcome back to PAX West here, live from Seattle, Washington, as we get into our lower bracket match here to find out who is eliminated from the tournament here for the North American Full Regional number 2. Welcome back to the Analysis Concave, is what we've dubbed it now, since there is no desk. It's fine. We can just be a concave, it's okay. I'm joined by Dunk and Trixler once again here with his flamboyant and luscious tie. How are you doing, my friend?
You gotta bring something to it, man. You gotta distinguish yourself from the rest of the people. But yeah, I'm pretty excited, man. The next matchup coming is Imported Support versus Astral Authority.
Yeah.
I would imagine a majority of people are already on the bandwagon for Astral to win this. But I think Imported's got something. I talked to them in the background. They understood that they were making mistakes left and right. They mentioned that in the qualifiers, they got away with murder. They were able to do whatever they wanted.
Right.
Going against a pro team really kind of shook them up and made them understand that they need to chill out or they're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, it did seem that way from their first series. It seemed like some of their actions were not even hesitant, but completely the opposite direction. Like very, very impromptu, we're just going to go for this, or just kind of slightly ambitious calls from their first series, Dunk. So
ambitious is a kind way to put it. I really want to root for Imported Support. You know, I've known Shot a long time. I think he's great. They're a lot of fun to hang out with, but I don't think they're going to be able to get it together in time to beat Astral. Astral looked insane against Noventic, at least in the early game, and I don't think Imported will be able to stabilize and recover like Noventic did.
Yeah, they're going to have to reach into their bag of tricks here and maybe get out a win or two. I feel like it's going to be a 2-1 if they're able to maybe cheese out in Battlefield of Eternity or something weird like that. But yeah, comparing the matches from Astral Authority versus Noventic and then looking at Imported Support versus Gale Force, and it's night and day. It's almost insane how prepared Astral Authority is for this tournament when they're almost taking on Noventic, who is right now looking like a powerhouse.
yeah, I mean, of course, they weren't successful in that series. Noventic, towards some of the later stages of those games, was well in control. But you're right, Astral Authority was able to make a bit of a dent there and have, I would say, a much better showing than their previous NA regional.
I would go so far as to even say they had a better showing than Gale Force against Noventic. Yeah. I'm not sure if Gale Force feels like, we're going to make it out of groups, they're hiding things or not. I mean, I expected them to come out swinging, and they didn't. They looked pretty weak, so Astral may be hopeful to get out of groups now after seeing that performance.
It definitely could do. I mean, it's still a very, very stacked group, of course, and it would actually be interesting to see how Astral Authority would go up against GFE. Do you kind of echo those sentiments, Trixler? Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It was kind of weird to look at Gale Force and feel like they were not playing to the same level as Noventic. I was watching the matches back there, and I was with some players, and they were like, wow, what is Gale Force doing right now? So, yeah, they could be waiting for the final matches and just want to get out through the group stage, and that way for tomorrow they can bring their A game. But it's a matter of right now who gets through, Astral Authority or Imported Support. I'd imagine, and I hate to be picking on Imported Support. I love those guys. They're all a bunch of great people, but Gale Force obviously would love to play against Imported Support. But Astral, right now, they are being explosive. And what I like about them is I'm used to them being so upfront with their damage with the Kerrigan Equinox or someone leading into a charge, getting a pick off, and then going into regular team fights that are 5v4. I'm seeing them play more long game scaling team fights that are actually pretty insane.
Don't lie, Tim. You're just happy about the Chen.
I was a little bit happy about the Chen.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was a little bit happy with it. The Chen pick was very refreshing to see. Yeah. I wish we would go a little bit more off meta. Storm, Earth, and Fire, Panda Pals, bring the damage. I know, man, up in the competitive play. It's not something that's even thought about, but man, in Hero League,
look,
it destroys, man.
I was happy with the Chen as well, but Storm, Earth, and Fire. Let's go. This is too far. It's too far.
All right.
Of course, make sure to hashtag HGC on Twitter and tell us who you think is going to actually win out this series as well between Astral Authority as well as Imported Support. Did you like the Chen? Are you on the Trixler hype train with Chen? You can tell us that as well. We're all for your opinions out there on the Twitterverse. Of course. Imported Support is a team that comes in as clear underdog, especially coming into a group quite as stacked as this. I would say that looking at this group on paper, not necessarily the games that have come out of it, but it is an extremely stacked group that's difficult for them to come in against. They were prioritizing heavily things like Brightwing for HotS to actually go up against GFE in their previous series. Didn't quite work out as is to be expected. So what are you expecting from them coming in against Astral Authority?
For me in Imported Support, I need somebody on that team to be the guy that goes, are you sure you want to do this? Because I feel like there was
some holdback.
Yeah, someone to hold back and be like, maybe if we just soak for 2 minutes and then get into a fight, it could be good. Because I feel like when the trigger is called on that team, they go in, man, and it creates situations that we saw in the first series that is devastating and they can't come back from.
Right.
So I would love for somebody to speak up a little bit and be like, all right, well, Shot's the shot caller, right? Say, Shot, buddy, I know that you're playing Falstad and you don't have these mighty gusts and you don't win the game for us, but maybe we as a team can work together a little bit. And if that comes through, I see important support, one, growing as a team. Even if they lose this round, if they get that composure and start to understand that, hey, if we work together as a team, we can make things work out, they can propel themselves into a decent team going forward.
They definitely could.
Yeah.
But that kind of discipline you're talking about, emotional control, state control, and reading the game, that doesn't come in one tournament. I mean, from the level of play we saw earlier, even if they get rid of most of their jitters, I don't think you can just grow that much in, the hour they've had to take a break. You have to sit down, take a deep breath, but you don't have time to rethink all your communications, strategies, that sort of thing. It's so difficult to build up, that consistency.
All right, and then on the other side, of course, it's Astral Authority, who did actually do pretty well in their previous series. I just want to quite quickly look back at what they were using. That we saw them prioritizing Thrall. We saw that
And Lunara.
And Lunara, exactly.
We need more Lunara because right now their Lunara is devastating in team fights. First off, their support play, besides for the throw at the end of the Team of Spider Queen game, was almost perfect. He was always near his Lunara. Lunara was able to work in auto attacks and burn down the opposing members, which allowed for the team to open up fights beautifully. So Lunara, Thrall are probably the two big picks that we're going to see a lot from Astral this round.
And of course, depending on what map is actually coming up, I can't quite recall what our first map was. It was shown just before. And it will be Cursed Hollow to get things going.
First of the day? Cursed Hollow? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we haven't seen it at all yet.
I don't think we've seen it all in the tournament, have we? Maybe one game?
Maybe one game.
We've
saw it
seen
in the last series yesterday, and that's it.
Yeah, so we've seen so much Dragonshire, I feel like, way more than I expected. That was not common at all at the last NA Regional, and now it seems like we've seen a ton of that. And I wonder if Ariel had something to do with that. Maybe the teams are more comfortable with Ariel on things like Infernal Shrines or Dragonshire, or something has changed because we did not see that map before.
Well, going to Cursed Hollow is good for imported support. They love to run global comp, period. They love their Brightwing and they love their Falstad. So Cursed Hollow kind of gives them the open window here to at least be in a comfortable setting, which is great for them. Now it just comes down to actually executing and making sure to be on point. I am kind of curious, and I would love to see more different support variety from HotS. I feel like all through qualifiers, he ran Brightwing and one Karazim game, and that's it.
Yeah.
So he needs to maybe pull out some different weapons here. I hope he's been working on it, because coming to a stage at this level and not displaying different support variety can be a hindrance for your team.
Some of these players' keyboards are like Hypnotoad.
Dude,
have you been watching them as well?
Oh yeah, I was looking at Trick, and then the keyboards were just rainbowing right behind him, and I kind of
zoned down.
Yeah, dude.
I'm sorry, Trick. I was just...
No, it's okay, man. Ignore me. It's cool.
The rainbow gloriousness of the Hypnotoad, it's just great. I can't believe. All right, we're going to be going into draft soon, very, very soon here as well, which between these two teams is going to be quite interesting. I'm wondering if imported support even brings out something a little bit more flamboyant if they find themselves in some trouble here, as we do go into the draft powered by Oros once again, and Astral Authority will be starting things off with a ban on Falstad and then Greymane and Lunara pickup, and we have Illidan banned out on the other side with Zagara, and now 2 pickups for imported support.
I like the Lunara grab here from Astral Authority because they have a mean Lunara themselves. They have the wonderful Talking Trees who can work on some damage like crazy. They used to have him on the Melee Assassin when Equinox wasn't available here, but now that he's playing range more often, I feel like he's doing way more work than he's ever done on this comp. And taking away Lunara gets it away from imported support, which is pretty cool.
They were relying on that pretty heavily, it seemed, in their earlier series. And I wonder if that had something to do with why they picked this Brightwing. I think they need to ban the Ariel out here, which is what they did. So Abathur ban is a little interesting. I would expect the Greymane composition to be more interested in playing the Abathur of their own, but instead they opt to ban it out, and then the imported responds with the Ariel ban, which I really like when you're dealing with a Lunara.
I have to ask at this point, with Brightwing being so highly prioritized by imported support, and you also mentioning that he HotS was very rarely playing anything else in the qualifiers, is that something for people to target later on down the line? Because they seem quite pigeonholed into it.
Yeah, I think it works out here for Imported Support, though. With the Soothing Mist build that he's going, he can kind of deal with Lenara damage that is coming their way, and we've seen in the past that they're able to retreat away from fights. The problem is if Lenara gets a lot of damage out and they all back up to group up and get that healing out, that opens up the avenue for Astral Authority to make plays on objectives, which is what we saw happen the entire match that Imported Support was playing against Gale Force, right? So Brightwing Hero is fine, but yes, it could be a problem going down the line.
So Astral Authority has selected Johanna. We mentioned this earlier in the day. On the large maps, Johanna gets a little less priority, but still opting for it here, even though there are no tanks banned out. The only tank picked up right now is Muradin, so I'm a little surprised to see Johanna picked over, say, an ETC, or even a Stitches on this map where he's really special.
Is she still not one of the better warriors, though, to contest curses? Like, with Shield Glare, with the ability to go in with Iron Skin, and Astral Authority. Chen.
Bringing the Chen again. So we saw 2 different builds, which is pretty cool because we're able to see Battery running 2 different builds. He ran Survival build with Amplified Healing, and then the second iteration, he ran more of an attack damage build where he's throwing off his W and his E as much as he can and really trying to burn down the opponents. So here being in double tank, I think he can run that build again, and he's going to try and land against Zagara. But the thing that we were talking about is that matchup changes so much at level 4 when he gets Serrated Spines, because he just feeds Zagara damage. So he's have to either A, make sure he's not in that lane, or being very careful.
Well, I have to ask you, Trick, on a map like this, does Chen's Wandering Keg get a bit more value because of the narrow choke points between the lanes?
Yeah, I think no matter what, I mean, I joke about Stormers and Fire, I love it as a talent, but when it comes to competitive play, Wandering Keg gives you displacement, it allows you to be unstoppable, and it allows you to dictate team fights if you work together with your team. Now, there is also the mishap of jumping into Wandering Keg and skill shots get missed, but Wandering Keg is definitely the superior ult for competitive play.
Not to mention just team fighting with it, but just boss steals or boss contesting in general. Wandering Keg is absolutely devastating on those tight choke points where the bosses have to be captured. And that's something we haven't seen very many teams deal with lately.
Okay.
Well, Imported Support, they're bringing out that European influence from HotS.
So
it's time.
They're bringing out their bag of tricks I was mentioning earlier. They need to play a little bit differently here. Now they get the global pressure. Cursed Hollow is a battleground that the Vikings can get a lot of value on, especially when you're fighting around the tributes. I would have argued it's probably top 3 behind Garden of Terror. And then, of course, I think they're pretty good on Infernal Shrines as well and Towers of Doom. But here we go. Morales will be the last pick here. So interesting comp for Astral Authority, but I feel like they have a comp here that never dies if Greymane doesn't dive.
Right.
They can play absolutely safe in the backline, that's for sure, but I'm wondering if Imported Support is going to split the Vikings into a 2-1 and then just try and 4-man crush a lane. And I don't know if Astral Authority has the wave clear to deal with that. They have, Lunara, Johanna who are good, but the medic's kind of dead weight in that sort of situation unless the enemy willingly takes trades. But even then, Brightwing in a 4-man lane puts out an absurd amount of healing.
Yeah. And then you look at, you're talking about the wave play here, and I see Johanna maybe being in that lane, Lenara, but she kind of takes time to develop and then dealing with the wave clear. And then Chen doesn't want to be down there, because all he does is hit WE and hits D. Like, he never hits Q until there comes a gank. But the gank potential possibly happening here never occurs because Vikings pushing your forts in. So, yeah, I agree. I feel like in the early game, Astral Authority's going to have a hard time dealing with that 4, 2 Vikings in the middle, and maybe a Viking in the top.
Is this the game where Astral Authority shows us why everybody's banning Medic? Is this the game?
I hope so, just because I don't want to
just for curiosity's
question it
sake.
anymore. Yeah, man.
I mean, I will say in the qualifiers, Morales was used pretty often, and it seems like people learned how to use a certain heroic called the medevac. If you ever win a team fight, if you ever win a team fight, you're able to rotate and grab an objective or grab some infrastructure, or you can save Morales, because eventually somebody died. Safeguard can get incredible value if you time it correctly, and then you jump into the medevac and it's being used. So maybe in scrims it was happening way too often, and people think that she might be borderline OP, but yeah, this is the game that we're going to see it in.
The fact that medevac can give you so much mobility is absolutely fantastic when well coordinated. Of course, it will be Imported Support going up against Astral Authority. Boys, who are you looking to make the plays?
Will Shot be able to play the Lost Vikings to their potential? Has he been taking the EU lessons from HotS that he will need to win this game?
For me, it's always Chen. No matter, until he wins a game, I'm always going to be watching Chen, period.
Well, he might win this one. Let's see here. As we go into Cursed Hollow here, let's head over to the Xfinity casting desk with Dread and Jayhow to find out all the action.
All right, Dread, well, we're seeing a different setup from both teams. Double Warrior on one side, Vikings, Brightwing, and Zagara on the other. What do you make of these play styles?
I mean, you have the kind of Undying Chen medic style with the Lunara. There's a lot going on when it comes to that. But then at the same time, you have TLV, Brightwing, and Zagara have a lot of global and sieging potential here. I think it's going to come down to who just has a better understanding of the composition and be able to get away with really just the soak.
I mean, Dunk called it. He said, I hope that they go a 2-1 and just wreck a lane. That looks exactly like what they're doing. And they have the comp to be able to pull this off, but they recognize this. Astral Authority does. So they're going to go in and instantly just kind of defend against this.
Yeah, they're going with the 4-man, and they have the Vikings soaking into the side lanes. Johanna and Chen don't really have too much kill potential as long as Shot can effectively play it. It's not something that he's known to play, and having the Vikings also Olaf being a solo and then having the other two to be able to be grouped together almost always means that he's going to be able to soak those lanes. So right now, there's a very advantageous position for imported support unless Astral Authority can get some real pressure on the map.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for them to get pressure, and how they're going to do that as Frozen X takes quite a bit of damage, but Morales is going to be able to heal him up. But this is the power of imported support with the Vikings. I mean, they're going to force the rotation out as somebody's going to be forced to defend mid while they're going to continue to put pressure in the bottom.
Johanna will be able to get the clear on mid, though, and drain out the ambo, so eventually she should be able to compensate for the siege that happens on the bottom half on the side of imported support. It's going to take 2 to 3 waves, though, so for now, it's not going to be gaining too much value, and imported really just seems to be dictating the pace of the match.
Yeah, we're a minute in. Obviously, we'll be looking about that 2:15, 2:30 mark for the first tribute to spawn. So trying to get some value out of these lanes early game is always crucial to try and get those talent tier advantages. But Tree's taking quite a bit of damage, and in comes Johanna diving on that back line. Draded is barely going to be able to survive here early on. But Baylog going to be the first to fall. Kind of semi-first blood.
Yeah, 1/3 of a first blood. But it's not going to matter again because it's in the lane where we have double Vikings, so Eric's going to be able to stay up there and remain getting the support. But the fact that we see Astral Authority has not even lost an entire front wall quite yet is a pretty good position for them to be in. Again, the Vikings, if they can get that advantage in the early half of the game, it's usually very difficult to come back from. But for now, with having a Li Ming and a Zagara in the same lane with the Infest, they've done a pretty good job.
Well, we see Battery up in the top. After that kill, it's allowed him to put a little bit of pressure onto that top lane. It's similar to what you were talking about with Johanna in the middle. But we see Frozen X again taking quite a bit of damage, but Draded dropping back for those siege camps, trying to time this well with the first tribute that should be coming soon.
Yeah, it'll be timed effectively. We'll see if they get the RNG to be on their side. That's going to be a kill. Oh, not yet for Battery. I thought he was going to be able to finish that kill. It would be a great for him because it puts in a position where that lane would have nobody up to be able to soak yet. And there we go. Johanna finally getting that pressure into the middle lane. Again, with how dominant her wave clear was. Didn't happen maybe as soon as they had liked, but eventually got the value here. And now Astral Authority, even though they have the Vikings on their opponent's side, they have the advantage.
I mean, I guess if you're Chen and you basically push up that lane, you talked about being able to soak up that with those minions. Those shots are completely out in the middle and top lane. They're putting a lot of pressure, and they actually have the experience advantage. First tribute now spawning up in the top.
I mean, they've lost the top lane very hard. I mean, not surprising considering it's Vikings versus Chen. Mid lane got cleared so quickly that Johanna was able to make something happen there as well. And bottom lane, they only got half of a wall. So Astral Authority does pull ahead here in the early half already. The Vikings, they are a very valuable tool, but if you aren't considering all of your lanes together and aren't efficient with that 4-man, it's not really going to matter as they pull ahead against them. Astral Authority now moving to the trib.
Ooh, Ignition's got to be a little bit careful, a little bit far off. Olaf goes down. Ignition forced to retreat as they do take down Zagara. That is our first official kill on a true full hero. And down in the bottom, we saw Lunara getting quite a bit of value, but trying to continue to poke back. But the aggression coming out from Equinox as they stay in and continue to put the pressure onto imported support.
But I mean, if there is no pressure onto Chimera, then it's not going to matter. They are going to proceed to dominate this game. If you are a Vikings team on first hollow and you commit so many resources, you just lost a 4 vs 4. That should never happen. When you have Vikings, you always want a dominant 4-man in any situation so that you can excel while your Vikings are soaking in the side lane. They just went. Lunara didn't even join Astral Authority, and they were still dominant when it came to capturing the tribute. This game, I think, is about to pretty much blow up in Imported's face. They are the underdogs, and we know that they needed to pull something out here to try and pull a win over a credible team like Astral Authority, but this is not looking good on any front.
It's a big question mark when you go into Vikings. It's how well do you play it if it's not something that you're known for. Let's hope that you've been practicing quite a bit as there's a kill, but we look at Wizened Duelist for Greymane picked up at 7. That thing looks a lot better when you start racking up the kills early.
Yeah, we see just a lot of the Vikings are getting picked off around the map, but it's not going to change the fact that it doesn't only come down to shot and how he's playing it. A lot of it is just their composition and how they're able to play with it. Now, they are going to make the rotation here to the Tribute. They're an entire level down. If they don't capture this, it's going to be huge 10 spike with the curse for Astral, what could be a 3-level lead, essentially. So this is a very important Tribute on the side of Imported as they go in. But again, look how much pressure's on Chimera.
Splintered Spear coming out from Frozen X. It's spreading a lot of that damage. It's trying to be healed up, of course, by that Soothing Mist coming out from Brightwing. But is it going to be enough as we see the dive in? And in goes Greymane. The body blocks are coming in, and there it is. As Jen goes in, down goes Brightwing. Hekarim is going to be the next to fall on Bird, and Shot is not going to... Baylog, I don't even know. They're just racking up stacks. As you can see, that gold starting to light up around Wiz and Duelist for Greymane. That is scary.
I mean, it's... to be completely frank here, I mean, it's a 2-level lead against a Vikings composition. You're losing the 4-man. I don't see you realistically having a composition unless insane resets or a mod of the century. To really come back into this matchup, there's already a 2 Tribute advantage. Level 10, it's going to be a possible boss transition into a curse. They have so much going for them, as we do see Astral Authority under a bit of pressure. Chimera, for the first time, might be able to go down there. He's going to be able to get it. Yeah, that's going to be one dead medic going down here. So Signs of Life are imported for a little bit of overextension on the side of Astral, but again, they need to be making huge plays if they stand a chance. They want to stand a chance in this matchup.
Important support trying to be opportunistic. They got the pick that they wanted, but the next Tribute is spawning. They're going to get the bottom fort. They're going to try and put a little bit of pressure on, but Chen seems to be left alone at that Tribute, which should be a curse for Astral Authority. Dread, what do you make of the trade here, giving up that fort, not contesting that Tribute up there?
It was an absolute must. They don't have the level 10. They really can't make any rotation on the map. That was one of the most value situations that Imported could have gotten, realistically. They've caught up so much. This game legitimately could have gone 3-level disadvantage for Imported support if they ended up not getting that pick in that situation. So really good job for them, finally showing signs of life, as Astral Authority is just going to abuse the fact that they know they have the upper hand. Vikings don't have necessarily the most dominant team fight presence. And I mean, with play again as well, he's going to be worried about the soak, the pressure elsewhere onto the map, and they're already going to be taking a key front wall.
I mean, this is huge right now for Astral Authority. They're taking full advantage of the curse. We saw Battery picking on the Vikings, continuing to pick on them. That entire front wall going down, that top tower, the cannon is going to be taken down. Frozen X continuing to try and put the pressure on, spreading that poison damage, and just look at Hekarim is being forced back there by none other than Lunara by herself.
Yeah, but if we look at Dark Chimera, the entire time has legitimately zero pressure onto him. This is the dream situation if you are the medic. They go for the engage. Blessed Shield is going to land as well, but not going to confirm a kill. We do see Vikings trying to get a flank. There's the play again. Hekarim J is actually getting a reasonable amount of damage there onto the front line. He goes in. Dark Chimera now finally getting a Stormfall, J-How.
Yeah, we see Dark Chimera on the retreat, but the Vikings are going down quickly, and of course that's only going to make Greymane stronger as they look to re-engage. Astral Authority continuing to put the pressure on. The poison coming out there. Battery going over, making good use of his dive, but is he going to be punished? He goes down, going in a little bit too hard. But Brightwing goes down on the back end. Equinox got to be very careful.
Oh,
it looks like Dreaded is going to go down. The poison is there, Dread. You are getting punished the minute you step up against Lunar.
Yeah, it's such a difficult position for them to be in, and without the Brightwing available, there's going to be no heals or resources. Again, compositionally, just the amount of raw damage output and disruption that you see on the side of Astral Authority and how far ahead they are against a Vikings composition. Imported support needs to worry less about the fight in any way, shape, or form. They need to constantly be worried about minimizing this loss and experience, because that's a forte really of the Vikings here. And again, to take that fight with that kind of disadvantage, it just seems very unrealistic. Yes, you are losing a keep, but I mean, it shows you can't take that team fight either.
All right, Dread, we're looking at this right now. It's a little bit of a reset when we talk about the tributes. It's 0-0. We see the boss being started. Imported support, they have the Vikings continuing to try and soak in the lane. What is their key to try and come back in this fight? Obviously, they're basically going to be trading bosses at this point. But when you have the Vikings on the map and you have this opportunity to try and come back and even it up, what is their goal right now?
What I would like to see them move to, actually, this is going to be Astral Authority. He's going to be able to, all right, confirm the boss beforehand. But what I am looking forward to is if I'm Astral, I want to try and dominate the map as hard as I can, as fast as I can, so the Vikings don't gain any value in the back half. You already have a keep on mid. I would be pushing with this boss. While that's going to be happening, Vikings soaking, split pushing, everybody else rotate to be able to minimize the loss. Again, coming out from that boss, try and stop the structural just damage that you see on the side of Astral Authority for a while, and then wait till you get to the later half, because Vikings become terrifying if they get to the back half like 20, if he goes Fury the Storm route, the siege potential and push potential, really awesome tool here for them. So again, just trying to use the Vikings everywhere on the map, giving up the tributes here, and it looks like they're going to be going that route.
Well, Astral Authority getting full value out of that boss, the one on the top not getting near as much value, and now the threat of being pushed down. I mean, this is huge right now for Astral Authority. If they can get another wall and potentially a pick, they could be looking at another keep as they're starting to put the pressure on the front wall. The ball's starting to go down just a little bit. I think that Astral Authority is going to be able to get what they want now that they're on even talents here. Back on out.
Yeah, and again, that's the most important thing, is just not risking any of those deaths. The Vikings up here getting a little bit of split siege. The minions will be able to help out. And they traded to bosses, but they were able to gain, I mean, not as much, but a little bit of considering how far behind that imported support is so much in this game. And that is exactly what they need to do. Just be like, guys, we can't take these fights for a while. Your opponents are about to get 16. Wait it out and then hope that you get to that even footing far later into the game, because those risky early game fights with a Vikings composition never pays out. Like, Olaf needs to be able to get his stun.
All right, I'm a little bit surprised. We talked about the global pressure from the Vikings, but we're also getting global pressure from Zagara. She ended up going Nidus, not devouring Maul. You talked about that being one of the potential things that you might need to land earlier. Are you a little bit surprised about Nidus showing up here as opposed to devouring?
I'm absolutely. It's a very surprising, considering the fact that they already have global pressure on the map with the Vikings. I see very few situations where they need the Nidus network as well. Yeah, it could be like, well, she could backdoor a keep at some point in time, but again, it hurts your team fight, which you already are struggling with when you have the Vikings until you get to the later half of the game. So I would have liked to see a mock coming out from them, but we do have another tribute. 16 still picked up here for Astral Authority. Should be a second one for them because, again, nobody's going to be able to get 16 on the side of imported.
Yeah, not at all. And they're going to be able to hit 16 by the time the next tribute spawns. That's going to be their moment. They can't afford to give up another curse. They've already given up a keep. They gave up that keep wall in the bottom lane. So they're going to have to start making plays happen. The clock will eventually run out if they continue to give this up and they continue not to be able to engage. It's 8 kills to 2, but it doesn't really feel like that's had a huge impact. It's just the amount of rotations, the amount of pressure that they've been able to put on. Those few picks in the middle allowed them to get that keep, and they're dictating, Astral Authority is dictating all the terms of this fight right now.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to imported choosing fights rather than soak. So we'll see if they end up going that route again, as 16 will be closing in slowly but surely for them. Bosses won't be up for some time. Very big win by being able to get the barrel that early. Maybe going to be a cooldown that's down during the next tribute, as it's going to be spawning relatively quickly here. And this is imported support's moment. This is what they've been waiting for. They got to the situation. Sadly, it's going to be positionally in favor of Astral Authority. This rotation in the bottom half should be very telling for them. They need a very early rotation now. The entire team should be moving, knowing Johanna is not going to be there for at least 20 seconds on this tribute.
Yeah, they see that in the bottom lane, and I'm curious if Astral Authority is going to try and engage as Eric gets taken down. We see Battery trying to at least channel it for a moment. He's baiting them out. The rest of the team is just going to go ahead and back off. They're going to give up this tribute, so important support starting to put a little bit of pressure on Astral Authority to be able to get a little bit. It's their first tribute of the game, obviously.
Yeah.
But now at the same time, we see a camp being picked up by Astral Authority, continuing to try and control the map.
But I mean, if you're imported support from that perspective, think about it this way. You just lost Eric for what would have been a curse. Like, that is a dream situation. The fact that they make that rotation on the side of Astral Authority is very good for them. It gives them more breathing room because they had a large experience advantage over them for some time, and slowly you see the Vikings are able to minimize that and slowly come back into this game, and they should hit a spike on the back half. Shot there has been hiding in a lot of the shrubs. We do see that Johanna is split from the rest of the team, so maybe they'll be looking to try and take a skirmish at some point.
I'm curious if he's going to get sniffed out up there, but obviously we have potential impending fight here, but the next tribute's going to spawn up at the top again, and this is, again, important support. They're not going to be able to give this up. They're going to be forced to rotate up. Astral Authority is completely regrouped as they have the party bush set up, and you see the damage. The barrel is positioning them deep inside as Brightwing Li Ming go down. We see Hakaram there deep in Murden, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to survive as he dwarf tosses over Equinox, and it looks like they are rotating over. They get another pick here. Dread, this could potentially be game.
Yeah, it's going to be a curse boss for free here. They should be able to get a double curse. They can even move into a double boss play as they spawn in 3 seconds.
Could they just go on court?
Confirming this kill, it should be able to lead to it. There is no Maw available. Wave of Force won't be up for 18 seconds, and it's not like Vikings are going to be able to stop it. Medic can out heal any of the damage onto the core, so as long as they don't just get one shot on Lunara or stay 2 split and get splash damage, this should be GG here. Astral Authority, very convincing win across the board. That is going to be it. Imported support, sadly, it just didn't have enough. The Vikings, they tried, they made a new change, but I don't think it's enough. That's not even going to be it. They're wiping.
Wow.
The reset. I can't believe that. They stayed so close together. They gave them the reset. They're not going to be able to end the game now.
I mean, it's down to 60%.
Wow.
I mean, I actually sat down thinking this game was over, but they basically allowed them back into the game.
We've seen this twice. We've seen this twice where teams decide to stack so heavily and take free splash damage under the core, and then Li Ming is the last target that you want to be able to get a reset. She is one of the best anti-core. If you die one person, she just completely resets everything. And with how close together they were and staggering on top of one another, they were able to get an insane play. Gosh, this happened yesterday with the 2% core as well. I'm just surprised at how risky positioning teams take when they move onto the core. This is going to lead to imported support. It's going to be able to pick up their boss. They trade the bosses. I mean, it's a moment of fresh air for imported. They can breathe. They can sit back and try and figure out how they're going to come back in this game. It doesn't change the fact that Astral has a huge control and grasp over it.
And you talk about control and grasp. Gravian was one of the people that died there. Those Wisdom Duelist stacks are completely negated, so that's a wasted talent now. As you see the medevac trying to come in, that's going to, I guess, leave Greymane behind.
Sad days.
Sad days there.
For the good of the colony there, Greymane. So that's going to be a 20 advantage coming up soon here for Astral Authority, mixed with having the boss pressuring on both sides. We have to keep in mind that when it comes to the lanes, bottom does not have a keep front wall, but top does. So it will be, with how late these bosses are coming into play, there should be a pretty risky trade to see what Astral Authority goes for. I'd like to see them be aggressive again, but Vikings are now finally getting that point where they can teamfight pretty realistically, so they decided to back out.
I mean, the experience gap is made up. The curse is gone.
Insane.
Astral Authority back to 0 tributes captured, which means that they imported support can wait. They can wait till they're even on 20 and then look to re-engage and to be able to fight on even terms for the first time this game, or at least what seems like the first time. And we see imported support continuing to capture camps, starting to get map control. The boss has cleared up neither key falls here.
And so though imported support now is going to be able to get 20, it's still a very rough situation for them. I want to see what the Vikings go when it comes to their level 20 choice. I think it's very crucial that they go with the Fury, try and get some split pressure around the map as best as they possibly can. But the curse is not really a major win condition. It still comes down to a team fight for them. Because the bosses were taken, we have a long duration of time here to see where that happens. But with this rotation for Astral on the upper half, that's going to be Giants pressuring on the bottom for free. Shouldn't be touched for some time here, and that's a really good job and opportunity here for imported to be able to open a win condition, because that keep will be vulnerable.
Looks like Astral Authority sees this keep very low and they want it, but now they're being forced back, and as you just said, that siege camp is going to get value, and they rotated over and got absolutely nothing out of that rotation. The tributes now being spawned, and that could potentially be the Viking capturing that for free. And so this thing's starting to turn around for imported support, a potential fight here, but the Vikings, they are slippery. And there's one capturing while the other two are just going to be fine. So imported support starting to work their way back in this game, Dred.
Astral's panics. They, after that core decision and getting stacked on top of one another, seeing the reset, they felt like they had such a good grasp, but now everything seems to be falling apart. Again, yeah, there's
It's like they're not even reacting to this. They are just giving up that entire wall. They wanted that keep at the top. They weren't able to get it. Nobody rotated back. They weren't able to give the tribute. Imported support slowly but surely. You know, the threat of a backdoor is real, Dred. Keep in mind you have the medevac.
Yes.
It's 43%. The shield is there, but the later you get in the game, it's much easier to take that down. So the threat of a backdoor is still going to be very real with Astral Authority.
And it's realistic that they should be able to get away with it with Barrel. And how much raw damage they have coming out of the Lunara. I think they can, as long as one of them don't get one-shot. Again, it all comes down to the reset on the side of Li Ming. And there's no major tools to stop it other than repulsion coming in. If they get a huge repulsion, if they panic and go for core, it's going to be awesome there. But Fury of the Storm was picked up for the Vikings, so we expect to have a lot of split pressure here, as what is going to be a tribute for, and curse potentially, here for imported support. We'll see if they're going to be able to pick this up, J-How.
Yeah, one Viking went down, and you can see Battery just trying to zone out for the moment. He's taken quite a bit of damage so far, but we see shot coming down the backside on those Vikings, but the assault continues as the Banelings continue to roll in from Zagara. So a little bit of battle of wills right now as we have that isolated there, but now Battery starting to get a little bit of body block in as we see Murden use that avatar. He is loaded up, but they are continuing to put the damage on. Vikings are there. They're coming into the backside, Dreadnought, and they are going out. They're getting a little bit safer position, but now we see Wizen Duelist starting to stack up just a little bit as Greymane goes in. Avatar not necessarily there anymore as the continued poke, but on the backside, Battery is very, very low as we see Morales trying to keep him up, and the magic missiles landing on Frozen X. Astral Authority has to regroup.
So much damage here coming out over the long run. It should be Dark Chimera that's going to be able to heal up over the Brightwing, and we see their health bar slowly rising. Imported support ends up backing out, worried about the Night Camp that's pushing in here. Now bosses are what we need to be worried about on this map. 1 minute for the upper one and 1:09 for the bottom half of the map. So this is where these teams are going to be panicked about. The next tribute should be roughly timed around that. They have the opportunity to possibly feign a boss on the one side or even capture a boss and then send the Vikings to kind of like, you choose. You either give us a curse or a boss. If they spawn on the opposite side of the map for imported, if they make that style of play, honestly, they could come back in this game. They still need a drastic call and success in a team fight. It doesn't look like they've been getting it so far, but they have a lot of opportunity to just outplay their opponents when it comes to shot calling with how much pressure and panic you see on the side of Astral.
Who wins this 1v1?
I 100% it's going to be Olaf. Okay, so never mind. Sorry.
All right, that just goes, and we see Greymane continuing to stack Wisdom Duelist once again, so that's going to allow for him to put a little bit of pressure on that back line.
15 seconds off. It's not enough here to be able to go for the boss call. They end up making this rotation. It's going to be spawning here in 9 seconds. This should be sniffed out very quickly. We're not going to be able to see this Viking delay long enough to make this a relevant call. They already know that if Vikings are the only ones here, they're going to be committing. But there's the medevac. Yeah, there's a delay on 2 people. They're not getting in the medevac. They have 4 seconds in this rotation.
They've got to get in it.
This is so risky. Boss,
Battery's not going to make it.
There's no 10. 10 is the #1 thing to be able to stop them from being able to get this boss here. Now they are risking everything in a 4 versus 4 into this matchup. Play again should be available. He's trying to make the rotation. Blessed Shield, this is ridiculous.
Well, we see Murden. He's on the front line, continuing to man. The boss is very low right now. On the backside, played again, has been used. And now HotS is going to be able to get on. They've got it. Now we see the Vikings continue to wreak havoc in that backside. The barrel is there, but he is there late. The 2 Vikings go down. The 3rd one is there. HotS uses the blink to get out of there. Battery taking quite a bit of damage as we see Equinox going in on Johanna. Remember, she does have Indestructible being healed up there by Dark Chimera. That boss has been picked up, but they are starting to push in. They are looking at this keep again, but look at the damage coming back on Equinox from Li Ming there.
So now we know they're going to back out and worry about the keep on the upper half, which means opens a boss potential. They're panicking. They're going core. They're going core. They have no barrel available. This could be game. They don't have this 100%. This is so risky, J-Hal.
Yeah, this is huge right now as we consider the Equinox is very deep. It is all about him, and he is staying safe on that backside. Equinox is very low. Indestructible will be proc. The shields are down. The poison starting to come in on the core. No resets, and they continue to do the damage. 10%. Astral Authority somehow manages to survive and pull this out. Dreadnought, that was crazy.
I can tell you it wasn't pretty. That was... The fact that medevac went in without the Chen, he was the sole factor that could have gone, that whole team fight would have gone from, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, to where, okay, a barrel's going to come in, we take the boss, we win the game. That was like just waiting and making, like the fact that they sacrificed and had, who was it with them? Li Ming, whoever it was going over the wall instead of Chen. Chen stayed. That was the last person you want to stay.
That went over.
Yeah, Chen, get Greymane to cap. Chen goes to the boss. He is the boss control hero. That was, oh my goodness.
That was crazy. I can't believe what I just saw, but I know that we're going to hear quite a bit from our panel about this game, so let's take it over there.
That's right, wiping sweat off the brow there. Here is Astral Authority as they managed to clinch that victory, but not in the easiest fashion. Let's start from the very beginning of the game to really kind of focus on things. Overall, what we saw from imported support, they really didn't have the best of times with their Vikings composition going up against Astral Authority that sees such an early experience advantage against that comp.
Indeed, I would actually say they had maybe the worst of times with that Vikings. It was such a rough laning phase. I mean, anytime you get behind in experience pre-10 with Vikings, you kind of have to take a step back and go, whoa, guys, what did we do wrong? How do we stabilize? How do we get back in this game?
Yeah.
And they did a decent job of actually mitigating damage. They stopped the bleeding. They got to level 20, and they even almost made some crazy plays around the map. It just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, I just watched that game, and I felt so judgmental for a second. I actually felt like Twitch chat for a second, kind of judging everything that was happening. First off, we saw Vikings, and then we saw Nidus Network. Now, Dread was already talking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know what? There is a debate that you can go that route, but why not go full all-in on split push and push away from fights? I would love to see Brightwing get Emerald win and just stay away from fights, and then fight your way back in and slowly find situations that you can get into it. And then we had the weird core rush that happened in the middle of the game. Somehow import support holds it. And then we had the weird chin interaction that happened in the bottom left. Luckily, it still worked out for Astral Authority, but I feel like the reason why that worked out is because at the very end, Imported Support focused Johanna when they were diving the core. Johanna has 2 health bars there. Get in that back line, at least get Lenara off your back line so you can have the Vikings start getting some kind of value, and you're slowing down the kill on your core. There were so many iffy calls that entire game that going into game number 2, both teams, I feel like, need to clean it up a little bit because that was a sloppy Joe of a game.
All right, well, this was the first attempt at the core here that was eventually cleaned up. And I think Dredd mentioned it very nicely that when you're doing this against the Li Ming, you have to be very, very sure you're going to get that core.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just cannot afford to give up that reset. And in that moment, Imported Support did a really nice job of focus firing the correct targets. They took down the medic first, prevented any healing on the rest of the team, and enabling
Watch
the
Wave of
resets.
Force.
That Wave of Force was very nice.
Very important.
Yeah, absolutely secured that boss.
Because Chen gets there and then he kegs, and then suddenly that boss is stolen. So that was nice, but that again goes to Chen being a little bit late to the fight. I can't believe that Medevac 1 wasn't A, close enough to where they could grab the tribute, or B, they just gave up the tribute and went. I don't think that tribute was needed for them. But yeah, eventually they went for the trigger call, they go for the core, and you see Johanna just being focused here by the entire team. Eventually, they move on to trees here, but you see Frozen X in the background just dancing and literally putting in auto text the entire time. Just such odd calls, and I hope that we learned something from that game, and going into game number 2, it gets a little bit better for us.
It seems like that is a trend in Heroes of the Storm. When you end up going for a core, like Astral Authority did, not quite finishing it off, but knowing it's low enough for the potential for you to always backdoor. And then from that point on, the team do we go, do we not go? And then some things start spiraling because you know you're so close to the victory, but you can't quite just eke it out. I think it is quite a common thing in this game, no?
It's very common. We've seen a lot of failed core all-ins, but even if you don't all-in for it, even if you just go deal damage to the core, suddenly the game has so much more pressure. Mentally, both teams, you're pressured because you're like, oh my gosh, the core's at 20%. If we lose this game, I'm never going to forgive myself. And on the other side, they're like, our core's at 20%, guys. We can never get you out of our base. Like, we have to play super safe. We can't let them get access to our core. So it's actually a really interesting dynamic where both teams are suddenly under a lot of mental pressure to deal with the core situation.
Yeah, it seems like that does come out quite a lot. I think our next map is going to be Battlefield of Eternity, if I saw that correctly. So let's get into our draft here once again, powered by HotS, to see what is going to go down here between these two teams. It is 1-0 at the moment for Astral Authority, with the Li Ming ban coming out first, Trick.
Yeah, when it comes to imported support, I know they love this battleground. There is a particular strategy they want to run on it. We'll see if they get through a couple of their heroes first before I call it out, because of course I don't want to even waste strats if they do go to tomorrow. But yeah, this is a map that they are very confident on, and this is a map that they want to take to Gale Force 2 in the first series if they did make it to a Game 3.
Yeah. All right, Lunara being banned on the other side by an important spot. Always quite important to get rid of that, and then Sylvanas being picked up by Astral, so looking for that push power.
Very high priority on the range DPS here. We've seen Li Ming and Lunara used in the last game, and both of these teams have liked to play both of those heroes, so not a big surprise to see those banned out. I expect imported support to go with the Greymane here. That would be, you know, the standard response, I would say, in this sort of situation to get you ahead in the races, because you cannot afford to give up Immortals for Sylvanas. So you need a clear team composition that either fights the opponent and prevents Syl from getting Immortals that way, or races them with Greymane.
All right, Greymane ETC. If imported support has something in their back pocket, now's the time to pull it out, because it is their last chance to survive here, Trick.
Yeah, looking at Astral Authority, Zagara is still on board here, by the way. She hasn't been banned out. Every other team is banning out Zagara, but neither of these teams are prioritizing that in any way, shape, or form. I feel like a Devouring Maul here for imported support could be great, but we are going to our next ban phase. We did see Morales do some decent work in that game. She was only killed off once, I believe, with the medevac plays there, and she was able to sustain her team so well, especially getting to level 20. There was a particular tribute that Astral Authority was just slowing the fight around, and that level 20, whenever you leave the medevac alone for a little bit, and Morales is able to get the heals off, you really start to see the value there. But medevac not being banned out, Thrall will be the pickup, and then we're going to see what Astral Authority will be moving towards. I would recommend maybe looking at Kerrigan here, because they do have ETC.
The Kerrigan ETC definitely have some good synergy.
Yeah.
The biggest concern there is it doesn't really help their race. They could do a 4-1 split style where you go with a really aggressive 4-man like ETC, Kerrigan, Uther would be something I'd like to see. And then you just defend your Immortal with that, and then the Greymane just shreds the opponent Immortal if they ever try to do that.
Well,
now, the Uther actually banned out. I really like that from Astral Authority to prevent that Greymane Uther synergy and the ETC Uther synergy.
It seems that as much as Imported Support have only exclusively played Brightwing during this tournament, it is too much of a given to just say, okay, we think you're going to do that again. No, you need to respect the potential synergy that's there. So I like what you're saying there, Dunk.
All right, so Imported Support is pulling out the other support that HotS can play, Karazim. He really brings in that damage Karazim, really going for the insight, getting the 100 stacks, and really trying to apply those cooldowns. And he loves doing it on this battleground because you can get a lot of auto attacks in on those Immortals and get it free.
That and he really looks up to Bakery. Continue.
Plus, I think Seven-Sided is actually one of the best responses to Muradin. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Muradin, his health pool is just so huge because of that avatar. That having Seven-Sided or Leoric at least to shred down that Muradin really can be the difference between the Muradin that stays alive forever and dominates your whole backline, or the one that jumps in and gets bursted down.
Arthur's getting picked up. Could we see a Syndragosa to help that Immortal push? Could that be a thing? Please?
That could be an option here. Imported Support is starting to reveal their cards here. They are going for CC. They want to get in the middle of a fight and really hold people down here. Remorseless Winter into ETC, and then it's trying to chain CC someone down and just be in the middle of the fight and then get that fight occurring here. Now, for Astral Authority, you're looking at this and you have to be wary of getting too many melees because Arthas is destructive against that type of composition. So looking at them, I'm wondering if they're going to pick up Ariel here. Ariel could be a wonderful, great pickup for them. Sylvanas and Falstad being very helpful around the area. They have the knockback to keep Arthas and ETC off of their teammates. Morales is also a decent option because that Morales-ETC matchup is pretty crazy right now. So in terms of supports, I would probably move towards those two.
I would like to see an Ariel. I actually think Falstad and Ariel both have extremely good Arthas matchups, but who cares about the Arthas matchup when you can talk about the Sergeant Hammer matchup?
Does that mean Hammer Morales? Yes, there it is. This is a composition that was being played by Naventic and Scrims about a month and a half ago. It kind of died off a little bit, but it brings some serious firepower. First off, it's hard to dive into, and second off, Morales just keeps Sergeant Hammer alive forever. Safeguard makes it hard to dive, and it can really just kind of keep ETC away.
So, I mean, Donkey, we're talking about, you want to, discuss the Hammer matchup. Are there any matchups she loses right now? She's pretty good in these positions.
My opinion is Hammer loses every matchup unless you give her Stim Drone, then she wins the game for you alone. So I hope they go Stim Drone just because there's something really special about a Hover Siege Hammer with Stim Drone, and it's just amazing to watch.
That's one way to describe it. Glorious is mine. Tyrande gets picked up for the Hunter's Mark here. So double support here for Imported Support as Shot draws his bow there and is ready to go.
Yeah, Tyrande kind of follows this whole line of like CC. They're wanting ETC to go in, Arthas to follow Howling Blast, the Lunar Flare, and then Tyrande bringing the Hunter's Mark as well just to burst down anyone so they can get into a 5v4 and also deal with the Immortals. We've seen Tyrande kind of fall off a little bit in North America, partially because Greymane brought so much burst that it was almost not even needed for you to even bring out Tyrande, but now with him not being on the board here and Tyrande, Arthas, and ETC being in the mix, it's a great pickup here for the 5th hero.
I've got to ask Dunk, with obviously Imported Support now has really good race potential. They've got ETC for the attack speed buff, they've got Greymane, they've got Hunter's Mark, etc., etc. At the same time, can Astral Authority keep up with that because they have something like a Hammer available to them, or do they have to then challenge for the team fight?
No, it's actually interesting that Tyrande really changes the dynamic of these two teams. At first, before the Tyrande pick, I would say, Imported Support has to engage onto Astral Authority. They have to do something with their CC. They have to get kills in order for them to win the race. But now, Tyrande's Mark is so impactful, I think they actually just win the race, and you have to try to initiate into an Arthas, which is a nightmare.
Yeah, Arthas, if he's able to just sit there and wait for someone to come in, you pop your E, and then you hit the Howling Blast when they try to retreat, and that's a dead hero. So, yeah, I completely agree with you here. I think Imported Support has the tools here to take a game in the series. This is a great composition for them. It's a little bit different. It's not Brightwing that we've been seeing the entire game. It's Karazim, Greymane, and then Tyrande just kind of burning down things like crazy. They're in a good spot.
All right, well, obviously, the Hammer Medic thing is something that really stands out on the side of Astral Authority here. Once it gets an Immortal behind it, how successful is that? With a Sylvanas as well, mind you. If they get an Immortal, is Imported Support actually just doomed against this kind of composition?
That is probably the biggest failing of Imported Support's draft, is giving up the Sylvanas, and they have a Hammer. if imported support loses one Immortal, they are going to get destroyed.
Yes. Scary stuff. All right, it's Imported Support versus Astral Authority. Game number 2. Tricks, who are you looking out for?
I'm watching, first off, Karazim here. I like watching HotS play different supports. I'm very excited for that. And second off, I'm watching Tyrande. Lunar Flares need to be on point, and Hunter Marks need to be when the team is grouped up and on an Immortal.
Dunk.
I just want to see Sergeant Hammer get stim droned. Is that too much to ask?
It would be nice. It would be nice. Let's get into it then. Game number 2. We have over at the Xfinity casting desk once again. It's Dread and J-How for game 2.
All right, Dread, game number 2. Hammer is back. We saw her in day number 1. This is her first appearance in day number 2. But on the opposite side, Tyrande there. Not a hero that we've seen a lot lately, but trying to win those Immortal races. Again, a battle of 2 different strategies coming out here.
Yeah, one very aggressive, the other passive, poke, and siege-oriented. And already out the gates, Karazim going with the insight there as his level 1 talent, something we don't see too frequently. We'll see if it ends up paying off for them as these teams go head-to-head. And again, the kill potential on the side of imported support is so good. I also, I want to be honest, I think I want a, oh man, he's already going to be done. The combo.
16, 17 seconds into the game. That is what they talked about, is the lockdown potential. It's so easy to land that when you have ETC slide in on it. Your target is sitting still. I mean, they are coming out firing.
Yeah, I personally think it's going to get a bit harder as the stun goes on to Equinox. He ends up getting the shield. The safeguard is not going to be enough, and that is going to be 2 kills here already. This is exactly what imported support needs. They're going to be successful into this game. And I'm going to be honest, what I wanted to talk about the first 2 times, oh my gosh, are we going to see it again? A third combo. All I want to talk about is Syndragosa. Please. All right, there goes a great nade split there. It's not going to be enough, though. But I actually think I want to see Syndragosa coming out on the side of unsupported support. But for now, they're being very successful in their format.
Yeah, the approach that we're going to see, I mean, they have double support, and it's kind of like pseudo support, especially when you talk about insight. Obviously, you're going to get plenty of heals out from Karazim, and you get that supplemental heals coming out from Tyrande. So I actually like what you're talking about. It seems like they have enough survivability between those 2 heroes, plus your double warrior setup. I think that would be a good call.
I think it's also unrealistic to think that you're going to take Army of the Undead and somehow be sustaining against the composition on the side of Astral Authority. It's so hard to get in there and be able to deal with them. I like that it provides the crippling to the structures on this map. I think it works very well, but then also the engage potential that it provides to your team, not only solely being dependent on the ETC, as we do see the first phase here is going to be positionally in favor of Astral Authority, going to be able to get a bit of harass. You know they're going to be looking for a pick whenever possible as Ignition, they're already getting stunned out. No power slide available for them. He's taking a lot of damage in response, but look at that harass. 3-man raw Lunar Flare there for shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of back and forth. We saw the 3-person route, then followed up by the Lunar Flare. You know, we're not seeing the cooldown on the Hunter's Mark. Instead, we're going to be seeing the Owl build coming out from Tyrande. So a little bit different approach here when we see this map. Do you think that could potentially be a downside if they're looking to try and win these races?
I don't think so. I don't dislike it so much. And we're looking at the composition that they're going towards. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to put a lot of consideration towards who need to be defending and not. I mean, obviously, the defense over the long period of time, Astral Authority does very, very well, but their poke, as long as they're safe about it, they should be okay. That was a pretty early door toss there, but he's going to be all right as the Mortal is going to be nice and kind to just get the little bit of a knockback here as they turn in, put some DPS. They're going to be looking to phase. Looks like they're committing to an all-in.
Yeah, the thing about this, other than Tyrande, that's a lot of melee, especially when Greymane hops into that Worgen form. They're going to have 4 melee on top of that Immortal, so they've got to be very careful with positioning. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, when we look at stuns, potentially a Wailing Arrow could hit multiple members later, but the follow-up, there it is again. The power slide with that Lunar Flare is just way too much to deal with. We've got damage all over the place as Frozen X forced to rotate out using that Haunting Wave.
Yeah, they've been surprisingly successful with this composition already with 3 kills. They don't have too big of an XP lead. As I say that, it goes on to Sergeant Hammer. She is deleted as well. Battery trying to get a responsive kill here against his opponents, but it's not going to matter as we see imported support locked in the first phase. A man advantage in a Tyrande combo. This is going to be their Immortal.
I mean, this is exactly, I think, what imported support needed to get out of the gates doing. They needed to be able to be aggressive, and they're doing just that. I mean, 16 seconds into the game, your first kill, 40 seconds into the game, your second kill. They're being very aggressive, and they have the composition to do it. So kind of curious what we're going to see. Will we be seeing that Wisdom Duels come out from Greymane again for them to continue that aggression? But first Immortal, half shield coming out here for imported support.
Yeah, I definitely think it's in their best interest to put it that way. And you see that they end up moving the 4-man to the bottom half and keeping Arthas by himself with this half health, looking to try and get 2 front walls as best as possible. Only going with 1. Sorry, I thought I was going to the bottom for a moment there. But sadly, they're going to stick with the 4-man. They aren't going to have kill potential until a gate opens, so it's in their best interest to try and focus that as best as possible. I think I would have liked them to do inverse rotation, send the Arthas solo, because this Immortal is going to get this front wall no matter what. And putting the 4-man to the upper half with that kill potential, they would have gotten 2 front walls, maximizing their experience.
Yeah, Hammer is sieged up, trying to do some damage. It's basically zoning everybody out, as you see Draded potentially looking to dive on it. They knew that they got that wall. They got what they came for. You know, on the other side, the thing that I worry about the most, it was actually what I talked about when they were on the Immortal during the attack phase. Well, if they end up having to defend against one, that's a lot of melee. And if there's a lot of shields, you know, that thing is going to stay in range. That's going to put you in a very tough spot. So they're going to have to try and win every single Immortal, else they might be with a very tough fight ahead of them.
Yeah, no, Dunk put it very, very well when talking about that. Into a Hammer Sylvanas, all the structures are crippled. Falstads, like, poke. They legitimately, I don't know if I would go as far as saying they can't lose an Immortal, but if they do, expect an absurd amount of damage coming out on the side of the Hecarim J. Gonna miss the power side response with the Stormbolt. We do see Draded trying to get a little bit harassed, but I don't think anything too crazy is gonna happen quite yet. As for now, Imported still has control of the game, not necessarily too significant of a lead. Astral's comp does scale as the game moves on.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to scale. There's the follow-up again, and instantly diving in. Do you see the collapse on that? The minute that comes in, Greymane and Karazim dive straight in, and they secure the kill.
But now we have hit level 7. Astral Authority finally has the easiest tool to be able to deal with this style of play on the side of Imported, so we'll see if the cleanse is going to be efficient enough to be able to stop this as well. Another thing to consider as the game moves on to 16, Inoculation is an opportunity for Medic to have a shorter cooldown for a large negate of the burst damage on the side of Imported support. So they have done a good job with this early half of the game, scaling pretty aggressively here, but they need to keep this tempo up if they're going to pull out a W.
Yeah, they definitely need to, as we now have the next Immortals about to spawn. A little bit of an experience advantage from imported support, so we'll see where these spawn. The camp's being picked up by both teams appropriately, top and bottom for this next spawn.
This is about to be fried chicken.
Trees has to be careful. He's just chilling, but...
Yeah, they're just dancing there, trying to abuse the Fog of War, see if their opponents make a mistake anywhere. He's going to be worried about clearing out the Shaman. They give up. They're making the rotation. Battery there, good job being the anchor for his team. I love the fact that at level 7 we see on Toronto, she's gone with the increased range on her Lunar Flare. It's going to increase the kill potential here, so she doesn't always have to be in perfect position. Good power slide to avoid the stun there, as we do see damage going 75% for the Immortal here, J-How.
Astral Authority has actually made good use out of that Immortal. We saw the stun, the damage coming out there on the ETZ. Well, we saw the grenade coming out. We've seen some pretty good grenades so far out of Dark Chimera from Morales. And then, of course, they're basically forcing them out there. But there's the stun, the follow-up, there's the cleanse. Is it going to be enough? It's not, as Battery goes down. The cleanse was there, but so much damage coming out from imported support as they continue to be aggressive, forcing them back. They're going to retreat back, regroup, and instantly go. But there it is, the re-engagement. The healing isn't going to be enough. Equinox trying to get out of there. The nice knockback there.
Huge win here for Astral Authority. The fact that they didn't die, and they've done well when it comes to the damage onto the map objective as well. The fact that they just didn't let that snowball. If that death went in, it would have led to a phase on the side of imported support. They only have a minor experience advantage for the time being. They're making this rotation. Will they be able to win the phase? It's looking about 50-50 or almost completely even. Only 300 damage is going to isolate it here. But if imported support gets this, Immortal, they're going to have 10 advantage. 1 to 2 picks is all it's going to take. Astral has to be very efficient with their decision-making here.
Oh, they're both posturing for defense right now, but we've seen imported support get really aggressive. Sylvanas going back to try and defend. I mean, almost level 10. If they stay back and they continue to clear, as we see Greymane in the bottom, Sylvanas and team up in the top, they're trying to do everything that they can to catch up in experience, because the minute 10 hits, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage. They're going to have to give this up. So a battle of wills right now as you see the defensive posture out by imported support.
Yeah, really smart play there on the side of Astral to confirm that front wall, get the experience, try and catch up, but it's not going to matter as 10 trickle down is coming in here. There is a level 10 as we see everybody on Astral trying to run away. This should confirm what is going to be an Immortal here. If they make the rotation, somebody should be able to get the DPS there. They're committing a 5-man here. oh man, Imported Support's risking a lot here in this situation. They do have the opportunity to commit at least 1 to 2 resources to the upper half. With those heroics, you can still take a 3 versus 5 for a short period of time, but instead not going to be taking that, which is giving free opportunity for Astral to catch up in experience and maybe have a potential to win this Immortal phase.
Yeah, they're going in, but out comes the power slide, and they go in, and now they're turning the damage onto ETC.
Wow.
With the damage coming down from Tyrande, Battery just barely able to get out alive as the 7-sided strike came out as well in the middle of all that. But the entire time, Greymane has been at the top, doing exactly what you talked about, Dread. Getting up there, putting that damage onto the Immortal, and securing that second Immortal for Imported Support.
This is the moment that the Dragon comes out. I don't know if they're going to be able to, or if they're going to be looking to burn it in this type of situation. I don't know if I like it so much for the fort. It is an opportunity that they can do it. I like it when it's at least the Mortal moving up towards the fort, and then you take the fight in between the fort and the keep. But we do have Syndragosa is going to be picked up here. Insight is slowly but surely being closed in as we see Imported Support is going to be trying to take the fight. Gust is very good tool to be able to deal. There it goes. Going to get all the structure damage here. Are we going to see a Gust as a response? It doesn't look like they're worried about it, but that's going to be a mosh pit.
That is going to be a mosh pit, but the mighty Gust in response forces them back
out. This is about to hurt.
And now we see Imported Support on the back foot trying to get out of there. The heals are coming out. The ward is placed down on the backside to get a little bit more healing up. They're looking to possibly re-engage the Immortal coming in. They want this fort, but they've got to be very careful, as does Astral Authority now as they're starting to back up.
Yeah, it's just such a rough spot for them to be in. And you got to remember, a lot of their composition when the heroics are off cooldown are cycling all around that Lunar Flare and anything to be able to prime that kill potentially. Or Astral only being 3/4 of a level, even half more so, behind their opponents is a great position for them to be in again because their composition does so well in the later half of the games. And Imported's only been able to open up 1 fort for their win condition as the game moves on.
Sylvanas, 34,000 damage, almost 35,000. Lost Soul at level 4 spreads and does damage, and it lowers the cooldown on it. When you have that many melee heroes, you're going to get a lot of good value out of that from Sylvanas. That's why you see her leading the charts. It's a matter of, is it going to be effective enough for them to help secure kills and really get even more value out of that?
Hammer is in the upper half of the map. She has no mount, so she's slowing the rotation. This is a moment where Imported needs to be very aggressive down here. We do scout out Battery. There's going to be the Dwarf Toss. Is somebody going to be able to hit anything else? Raw Lunar Flare not going to hit quite yet. 4-shot. Really good job on the side of Astral to not be able to give up that kill because, again, the rotational advantage with the Hammer is going to be a bit hesitant. And this game is going to slowly, I think, swing tempo-wise in the favor of Astral as long as we see Dark do a little bit more efficient decision-making when it comes to his cleanses. They've been a bit late, and also Inoculation is an opportunity for him to really negate a lot of the damage here on the side of Imported.
Well, Sergeant Hammer stayed in the top lane, continued to put the pressure on, did a little bit of damage there. I'm actually a little bit surprised he wasn't going for the well there, but he's trying to get a little bit of lane control as we see him hearthing back. Camps now being prioritized by Imported Support. Those are going to be rotating during the Immortal phase. Dread, they're about to hit level 13 as well, and that is an opportunity for them.
It is a small one, though. Again, Astral Authority's composition is so good at buying time to be able to catch up. They're good at the long game, and as long Imported honestly just has to constantly push the issue. If they ever feel like they have the upper hand here, they're going to go in. When it comes to the race, they have a small positional advantage here over their opponent. The Mark coming into play. That's going to be their phase. They still have the 13. This is when they want to look to fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is them putting the pressure on. I mean, they have the huge burst potential, but Astral Authority also able to put the damage out. This spawn point is huge, and I mean, we're going to have a response to that. The camp in the top lane, that's going to be Falstead clearing that up. He'll be able to fly in, but this, being level 13, they're allowed to be aggressive as the power's flying through. They do get the stun down, the cleanse is out, but not in time, as we see Murden get bursted down very quickly, but Draded having to get out of there, and now ETC getting stunned.
That was almost enough to be able to take a foot down. Starfall is trying to zone the team here as it slowly falls. We see 5,000 health left remaining onto this Immortal. Now 4.2k. Everybody on Imported Support. Low health bars. You see Equinox posted up there just saying, please come at me here. Hammer doing so much damage. And quite yet. Draded maybe overextending a bit too much as it's still a 5er score. The Stim Drone comes out. Howling Blast is the disengage there. A little bit too hasteful there on the side of Dark Chimera. Goodness. And they're going to be able to zone them off. It's not a win, and really on the side of Astral Authority there is a major cooldown is going to be burnt, and it's unrealistic they're going to be able to get this Immortal.
That was a nice disengage. I mean,
I
think it was a little bit early on that. They didn't necessarily have the engagement. Now they're kind of posturing up in a position to try and put some damage out. Level 13 picked up with the power slide in. The stun is out, and now is that going to be enough to take it down as we see 7-sided strike coming out, and down goes Sergeant Hammer, and we now see Muradin is going to go down as well. So 2 members go down. Is it going to be a third? Dark Chimera trying to make it out of there. Safeguard is out. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to close the gap.
This is such a momentum swing here for Imported Support. They're going to be able to pick up a 3/4 health immortal pushing on the lower half of the map. Syndragosa is still going to be available. So is Starfall. Great zoning tools and structure disabling on the side of them. The experience they're going to be able to gain is also going to put them in a position where they're slowly closing in on that 16 tier. This is a great situation for them to be in.
All right, Arthur's clearing up the lane. Of course, he has that Syndragosa you highlighted earlier. He's going to rotate down. This should be an easy fort. And I think that Syndragosa is going to try and be held for that keep as they continue to be pushed in. I mean, this is Astral Authority being forced back. The lead starting to stretch as they start to get these structures down, especially if that Syndragosa helps secure this keep. It's going to be a 16-tier advantage over Astral Authority.
Yeah, and I really think that Astral Authority, a lot of this comes down to Dark Chimera. He hasn't been very good when it comes to getting his pre-cleanse out on the combo of their opponents. There we go, the Syndragosa coming in. Stim Drone as well over the wall. He sees a lot of really good damage coming out to the Mortal. Starfall trying to zone them off of it. That Disable is still going to last a long time. Syndragosa is very effective on those structures as they see the keep slowly falling. I don't know if we're going to see Astral be able to force this fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is just completely locked down, and they are putting the pressure on. That keep should fall momentarily.
There it goes. And 14 tier, they're on the chase. They don't have 16 tier. I don't know what they're thinking as they go in. Absolutely deleted Sylvanas. The Gust comes out. And again, it just, I don't know. I have to be very questionable of that decision on the side of Astral. They chose that fight. They wanted it. I don't know what they thought their major advantage was. Mosh Pit's still available. Wailing didn't come into play. A little bit too risky here as Astral seems panicked as they're on the backside.
I mean, the burst potential, Dread, it seems like the minute they hone in on one, it seems like their shot calling seems to be much more on point this game.
Yes.
They seem to be isolating heroes, and there's zero hesitation for them to hop on that one hero. So I love the calls that are coming out as we see ETC going in very deep there into that camp, recognize he better get out of there as the double support comes around to keep him healed up. And they're going to back off, but 2-level lead right now for Imported Support.
I think it's 100% that we need to see inoculation moved into at 16 on the side of Astral Authority. If I'm Dark right now, I haven't been able to keep anybody alive. I feel like that is a must-have in order to help my team on the later side, but they need to be able to get that. As Fall said, soaking a lot of pressure here from Imported when it comes to all the structures, or excuse me, when it comes to their mercenary selection here. 16 tier fight in the next Immortal. If we see Imported pick up this Immortal, depending on the percentage of health, it could be game. They're in a position where they can put your opponent in a lose-lose because they have the 1 keep advantage here. So Astral Authority really needs to step it up, as right now it is 0-10 in kills, J-How.
I want to go back to what Dunk said, is that sometimes all it takes is one mid-game Immortal when you have Sylvanas and Hammer to lock it out. Syndragosa is out. They're looking to engage, and they are going in deep, but a nice Wailing Arrow and a Mighty Gust for the disengage. I felt one or the other would have been good there.
Exactly. Definitely the Gust. That's 100% disengaged. The Wailing Arrow is a counter-engage. So definitely only the Gust was what they want to have there. Wailing Arrow's not going to be up for now 75 seconds here, going up where Gust will be available relatively soon. 16 still not picked up for Astral Authority, as we're going to see a free face here on the side of Imported.
I mean, this is one of those moments where if you had the Mighty Gust disengage, followed up by just rotating up, trying to get 16, which they were able to do out of that one wave. I mean, this is now 50% Immortal. And Astral Authority is now, once again, put in the position to make things happen.
But inoculation has come into play. 50% damage reduction for the first 1.5 seconds of the Safeguard on the side of Dark Chimera. Cleansing hasn't been timed before a lot of the structures, but it does put him in a position to where if he perfectly times that, he might be able to keep somebody alive. So watch out for his Safeguard. He really needs to be on point if he's going to keep his team alive. Equinox there, getting the Hover Siege damage. This is where this team really comes into stride.
Yeah, I mean, you see him moving ever so slowly. It's not that full movement speed, but he's able to put the damage on. Recognize he needs to get out of there as we see Imported Support starting to come back in. But you can see the peppering damage now coming out from Astral Authority, trying to be healed up there. But of course, you do have Karazim there, as well as that off support there in Tyrande. Is now the focus again, but that Safeguard you were talking about seems to be enough to keep him at very high health. Now the re-engagement, but the Starfall coming down, getting a little bit of zoning pressure. In the meantime, look at the amount of damage they've managed to put on the Immortal themselves.
And Hammer is slowly but surely just wailing onto this thing, trying to get as much DPS as he can. For the first time in this game, it looks like
this is Astral's moment.
They're going to be able to get the Immortal finally into their favor. They do have a lot of siege damage they need to get rid of. Falstad should be able to clear that for them, as we see it's moving to the upper half. It is absolutely cool.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Poor Equinox.
That was a beautiful rotation on the side of Imported.
I think I heard a couple oh-nos from the crowd
I think
as
the whole,
well.
Yeah, they were like, that one hurt a bit. This makes it to where, yeah, you did get a minor victory, but this Punisher, or excuse me, Immortal is legitimately almost going to do nothing at this point, not having the hammer available. It's going to be a free clear here. Honestly, I expect to counter-engage Cinder Ghost and just fight.
Yeah, there it goes as the power slide in, and the stun and the complete follow blow-up of Sylvanas. That's the thing. You have Sylvanas, you think, I need to push in, I need to lock this down, because the Immortal, you get a little bit out of position, and you get punished. And I don't know, I can't believe how quickly Imported support, the minute they see an opportunity, they are on it so fast. You talk about the distance to make up between Greymane. He's got his dive once he hops into Worgen. You've got the dash from Karazim. They wait, they pounce, and they are capitalized on every opportunity that's been thrown at them. As you said, now it's 12 kills to 0.
I am ready for Astral Authority to calm down a little bit. I think that last choice, the fact that they lost the hammer, that one is just a poor rotation. You can't always stop that type of situation, but they were like, this is our first Immortal. We have to make something happen with this. It's a 4 versus 5. You're against a kill comp. That is the last thing you want to be doing. And then the panics, isolates, and again, somebody is going to be just obliterated there. Another kill here. Yeah, Sylvanas going down, Cinder Ghost coming over the wall. Howling Blast is not going to be really that effective. And Ignition maybe taking a bit too much harass now, but that's a 40-second time slot where now Imported support only getting more of an advantage as they close in on 20.
Yeah, the 20 threat is now real, and of course the next Immortal phase will be coming up here very soon. We have a camp pushing in the top, and we're going to have the camp now rotating over. I mean, this is just a huge moment. Imported support, while they seem to have slipped up a few times, they've been in complete control. They have one keep down, and keep in mind, Dread,
what are you doing there?
Keep in mind that once this drags on for a little bit, the threat of catapults is always going to be there.
Yeah, no, it's a really good position for Astral Authority to be, or excuse me, Imported support to be in. They do have the fall set to be able to deal with it and then be able to get the flight later on, but that's still a probably 8-second minimum time frame where they can capitalize on the fact that they have the kill composition, they have a double setup, whether it be the Howling Blast, the Power Slide, the Lunar Flare is going to follow up, and Greymane's going to proceed to give you the old growl with that weird piercing noise that Go for the Throat gives you. And we see that right now. He's getting the clear, which you expect now. Imported support should be the aggressors for the most part into this fight. And again, I think they really need to, the minute they see the combo, just open with a Wailing Arrow. Their team fight is not as successful when it doesn't have that kill potential, and you remove a lot of the spells there. If they get the combo onto somebody, open with a Wailing, and then proceed to turn on them.
Yeah, I think you're right, but Equinox starting to get pressure down there, and there it is, 7-sided strike.
I don't know. I don't have words at this point.
I mean, how many times?
There's no safeguard. There's no cleanse. I don't have words.
How many times is that going to happen until they realize that they're going to have to at least posture up a little bit?
I'll let you know when the game ends, whatever number it is to 0, and it's no forts, or excuse me, 2 forts going to be down on their side. But honestly, this game's not going to change until they change their approach to these fights, because it's just. There is an insane amount of damage. Like, don't get me wrong, it's very hard and time sensitive, but it only hits it's a fool me once situation, right? You've been fooled 14 times. So find a spot. And granted, some of those can't be dealt with cleanses into the game and for the first 7 levels, but I mean, it's at this point we've gone way too far down the same path for me to really be empathetic with Astral.
I think the only good/bad thing that came out of that, obviously we're going to see another Immortal pushing down for Imported support, but at least that allowed Astral, the favorable side there, allowed them to get a little bit of damage in. That shield is there. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to survive against this. A half-shielded Immortal pushing down, and this keep is wide open for the taking and potentially game, as you just said.
Yeah, honestly, it should be game for them. I would use the Syndragosa onto the keep just to make sure it takes no bonus damage. It all has to come out from the hammer. I think they might wait and look for a kill potential on that. There it goes. It comes out early. I like that choice. The root as well. That's an insane amount. Cleanse coming out for the first time. Chimera doing fine. The instant Wailing Arrow. I've never even heard that strategy. Holy cow. Finally showing signs of lights in this fight. They only have a couple of seconds for Lunar Flare to come back up, but they have to be so worried about the Immortal that I don't think it matters. 22 minutes might be 22 minutes too late here as the combo goes in once again on the battery, and he's able to barely get the Dwarf Toss out, Jay, as they turn a kill around.
They finally get the kill, I guess the opposite engagement there. As you said, the minute the Wailing Arrow came out, it forced everybody on Imported support to drop back. Every single member, it looked like they were just scattering. They were scared off because they are an all-in composition. The minute he goes in, the only person in range is Tyrande, and she's being aggressive with her positioning to try and land the Hunter's Mark when it becomes necessary. I think she went the extra range at 7 on the flare, but still, the positioning of that team is so far in, that when you hit them with that, it forces them back. First kill of the game, and now level 20. They're finally on even playing field, but 2 keeps down.
Two
so
keeps
a little
down,
bit uneven.
44% of your core. We've seen this happen already today. It doesn't look too good when your core gets that low. I mean, you can walk through the front door, you can choose the back door. Any door is pretty much open at this point. There is not too many major tools, Gust only being the real huge one that I would be worried about when considering core calls. Astral Authority now realizes they need to take the fight to their opponent's side of the map, because if they lose any amount of heroes on the left-hand side of the map, cross that line of scrimmage, if you will, oh, they're afraid of a back door. They think it's coming? No, they're just going to all back. They're not going to try and force that fight.
No.
And Equinox now getting caught out. Syndra Ghost is just now up. That is in range. He's going to be rooted.
There it goes.
Oh, this is so close. The Gust? Oh, for the
Gust
first
is there.
time.
Equinox is
The
still
Mosh.
alive, but the Mosh Pit is there. It's catching 2 members. Equinox trying to do damage. ETC is very low. He had to bolt out. Then he is still alive, but the Wailing Arrow in return. Now we see Astral Authority going in deep. The face melt from ETC, forcing them off. Astral Authority is pushing them down.
They just have to
Ignition
buy
taking
time.
a lot of damage. They are doing everything that they can. Catapults are going to be on the core. On the backside, Ignition very, very low. He does survive. Grayman now on the backside. He's going down.
He survives too!
He survived!
Meanwhile, the core is going to be knocked on by 3 catapults here against Astral Authority. Keep in mind, they just need to stop them
The
from
owl
backing.
is there.
The owl is already up, got the dismount here. They're slowly just wailing it
This
on.
is doing a
False
lot of
dig at the
damage.
flight. It's going down. 35, 34. It's not going to be able to end, but it is a lot of damage again. Slowly moving into a position where they can just open any door. But that was a really good job. Astral Authority again. For the first time, it feels like they've done some. I honestly expect Imported to just rush top. Like it's a. They're showing in Fog of War. They're trying to abuse. Okay, you got sighted.
Yeah, they're
You know you got sighted.
Well,
they're doing a split, which is going to win them the game. I don't think you can stop this.
I mean, you talked
I
about
don't think
all
you
the doors.
can.
I think the front door is actually open now. They can
You know,
probably
look
just
at their
walk right
top.
in.
That's game.
Yeah, they're coming in. This is 25% core. Only a little bit of a shield. Mighty Gust is available.
matter.
It's not
It's
going to
so
matter. That's
low.
going to be so much damage. We're 25 minutes into the game. Level 21, they get 1 kill, 10% left of
honestly-
that core.
Greymane getting that low was something I didn't expect, but still, that's going to be GG here. Imported support with complete control over that game from beginning to almost end. Keep in mind, there was a couple of kill response on their opponent's side, only 1 to 2, but they managed to take a very convincing win on BOE.
What happens if Arthas or Greymane go down at the end? That's a completely different ending to that game.
Yeah, it definitely could be, but we're about to go to an insane finisher of this final series in game number 3. Before that, we got to go to a quick break, so we'll get back to you guys in just a minute. Stay tuned.
To all agents of Overwatch, look around. War. Criminals. Someone has to do something. We can make a difference again. The world needs us more than ever. We are justice.
We are courage. We are hope.
We are Overwatch. Are you with me?
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for Teen.
This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in paradise.
Going all the way to the top. You're never gonna win when I come out.
Welcome back to the Analysis Concave here for day 2 of the NA Fall Regional here in Seattle, Washington, as we are 1-1 in our lower bracket game to determine who is going to move on and stay alive here in Group B. As always, I am joined here by Dunk and with Mr. Trixler over to the very end, and this is the first game that we've seen Imported Support win, and it harks back to almost 8 months ago, where we saw that true stun meta in the game, and they were able to pull off brilliantly in this battle.
Yeah, I'm so proud of Imported. First off, one, they changed up their strategy. They didn't run Falstad Brightwing. They actually played the Battleground, which is a sign of a team starting to think as a team, right? Granted, it is an old strategy. It's an old thing that you've seen in the past, but they did run it pretty well. It felt like Hecarim, Jay, and Shot were on the same page. Power Slide, Tyrande, Luna Flare, everyone else, please hit buttons. And they did just that. And that's a step up for me.
All right, well, here's some of the highlights from that game, and it all started here at the very beginning. You can see the explosive potential of having a Tyrande on your side with these stuns, Dunk.
I was actually really impressed with the execution by Imported Support. You know, it's easy to say, oh, just land all your buttons at the same time, ha ha ha, you win the game. But seriously, they pretty much never overextended. They didn't give up kills except near the late game. There were a couple mistakes, but they did a good job of making sure not to overextend and only capitalize when the enemy made mistakes.
I like how our production team was showing the first 4 kills in succession. I thought they were just going to go down them all at that point and say, look how similar they all are. It's stun, 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 kill, kill, kill.
Yeah, and that continued to happen. Now, of course, it did get to the late game, and it did get a little shaky, but I like how they composed themselves. Didn't over-engage. After Hecarim J hit the mosh pit and it just didn't net them any kills, they all pulled back and they went for the split, and that's the easy way to win the game, right? You get Greymane on the core and you go from there, so that was pretty good to see.
That was actually a really awesome chase sequence, too. I really liked watching that fight because every time I thought the fight was done, somebody else came up with a flank or like a weird engage tool to try and reconnect, like Shot with the Starfall to try and catch the hammer. And then the re-chase back, it was just really neat. So I like to see that kind of, really intense interaction in the late game because depending on how that team fight goes, you could have seen Astral Authority win that game.
Yeah, and just looking at Astral Authority, I feel like Sergeant Hammer isn't their cup of tea. It seemed like they were always trying to debate on how they wanted to move around Sergeant Hammer, and they had their Sylvanas and Falstad further ahead than their Murd in a majority of the time. Why are you winking at me, man? Falstad and Sylvanas were always trying to kind of clear the path a little bit and try and get them set up, but they wound up netting too much poke, which made it very hard for Sergeant Hammer to start being effective until we got to the mid game where they started to get a bit better there. So I'm wondering if Astral Authority A hasn't practiced enough, or B, it's just they were a little bit off there and they need to tighten it up.
All right, well, the next map is going to be Towers of Doom for all of you out there, as well as these two guys. What are you expecting, really, in this 1 versus 1? And no more winking us allowed, Dunk.
I mean, the wing's fine. Just, you can't do it when I'm talking, man. I lose all track of thought. It's a big deal, Going into game number 3, I'm okay with Imported Support still keeping up with this tempo of being a little bit different. It's obviously a different change of pace, and it threw off Astral Authority. I don't mind seeing CC, because it seems like when it comes to actually focusing a target, they listen and they get it done.
I've got to ask, Dunk, is this also another map where actually the old meta of CC trains can actually do very, very well on?
It can, but I don't think we'll see Astral open themselves up to the same mistakes in draft. Because when we saw the Medic pick up, Medic's okay against that composition, not the best. But if they had taken an Ariel there, for example, and just invuln the target, that strat never works.
Right.
And once you've seen it once, you have to be expecting it. I mean, they got to line up ETC and Greymane and Arthas, and then Astral just didn't even respect the Tyrande possibility on her best map. So I think now they're going to be super on guard and will not let that same style happen again. But if Imported has another, out of the blue strategy, we could see them take this match because Astral didn't respond well to the first one. So another one catching them off guard could be enough.
So you can basically see that their on-decision fly making when it comes to going from map to map against those weird compositions isn't quite as quick as, say, maybe the higher tier teams here in North America, right?
That is what I would say. I mean, one of the difficulties, I would say, for the the lower tier teams, I mean, Astral has gotten to a lot of regionals, and they've done well here, and they put up a really good showing against Aventic. But both of their games against Aventic looked scripted, let's say. Like, they had a very similar composition. Aventic played standard, they played wave clear, that got them an edge, and then they fell. So maybe if you take them outside of their comfort zone, maybe they're a lot weaker.
All right, let's head into the draft now, brought to you by HotS once again here, as we have what is to be here our Towers of Doom map between Astral Authority and Imported Support. It's going to be the Illidan ban and ETC ban, with Falstad starting things off for Imported Support.
Falstad makes sense. We've been talking about it all weekend, and we'll continue to talk about it until he gets nerfed. He is so darn good in global presence, probably one of the best range carries you can pick up in the game, and he gives so much power here to Imported, and they just love putting shot on that character. Li Ming and Greymane, though, for Astral Authority, they are looking to bring damage and bring the fight to their opponents here.
Li Ming, Greymane, we've seen both of those heroes do amazing things on this map, but not as amazing as Medivh Muradin.
Yeah, Medivh has been wrecking throughout the entire tournament. In fact, this is our first time seeing him today. We saw him, 4 or 5 times yesterday. Medivh can prolong fights like crazy. You get the extra duration on the portal at level 1 and then Master's Touch, and of course he starts to become a force after he does complete that quest. So Imported Support, I think it's the first time that we're seeing him play him. But again, this is something that they were talking about to me up above when we were on break. They were like, hey, Medivh is scary, and he's a hero that if we need to pull him out, we can.
And if you pull him out in first rotation, you almost force your opponent to ban the Stitches, which then gives you so much room, because Medivh can fit into so many other compositions than just needing a Stitches, right, Dunk?
You're not obligated to go Stitches at all. It's actually one of the things I like the most about picking it in that slot right before the second ban phase. If you pick it first, you have the opportunity to pick the Stitches in the 2-3 slot from first pick, but
you give away so much.
You do. You really do. And picking it there means suddenly Astral Authority, the only thing they can think about during draft phase is, oh no, what if they Medivh Stitches us? We just got cheesed. We don't want it to happen again, and they ban it. And hopefully Imported Support knew that was going to happen and have a plan to deal with it. But I really like their composition so far. Falstad is amazing on this map, and Muradin and Medivh are insane late game. They both spike so hard at 16. So all Imported Support, in my opinion, has to do is get to the late game.
And then they get Ariel and Johanna, Astral Authority does here. And I like Johanna against Medivh because I feel like she can lock down a part of the portal pretty well. She's healthy enough. She has Iron Skin if anyone does come through and provides any CC. So she can kind of control the exit path, if you will, for the opposing team and allow Greymane and Li Ming to try and get those pokes, especially when Force of Will has been used. So Johanna and then the wonderful Ariel pickup here gives them the sustain and the ability to control the fight a little bit better.
I mean, you bring up a good point about the power spikes on the side of Medivh. Like, the Force of Will and then Reabsorption talent that you use to kind of get yourself a huge amount of health back, it's like the very best against Li Ming, because all her spells are slow. You know a big damage spike of combo is going to hit, and it's almost as if it works perfectly against Li Ming specifically over everybody else.
We actually saw K1 taking really good advantage of it yesterday.
Yeah.
He would wait for an ally to get stunned out and not immediately Force of Will. He would hold it, and Li Ming's like, maybe it's not up. I'll throw my combo. And then suddenly the Force of Will, Reabsorption, and the person's back to full health.
Yes.
And that is just so devastating. So if Imported Support can use it that well, it's the perfect counter. And I'm a little concerned about Ariel for Astral Authority because we saw solo Ariel struggle against double support or out-sustaining style compositions. And right now, Imported Support has the Medivh Brightwing, which is a lot of sustain over the course of a team fight.
Do they have anything else they can sync up with Medivh here? One last slot. Is there anything a little bit more wacky on the cards? What do you think? Anything?
I'm wanting some natural damage here, actually. I'm looking at it, and I'm feeling like Falstad and Medivh, yes, they can bring the poke in. They can do some decent damage here, but I need some kill potential. And I'm not sure what the pick is here for me. I'm thinking maybe Thrall could be pretty strong here, but Leoric actually gets locked in, which can be great against Johanna. I actually look at Imported Support, and I think they have heroes that can kind of look at particular targets and just focus their abilities on it. Medivh can deal with Li Ming. Brightwing can suddenly deal with Greymane. All you gotta do is watch out and make sure you land that polymorph. And then you look at Leoric, and he can handle Johanna on that front line, and he can almost body her away from that portal so you can start jumping between the actual two portals.
There's also something to be said about how self-sufficient, in a sense, all the heroes in Imported Support are.
True, yeah.
Like, they can all just run around wherever they want on the map, and they either have mobility or survivability or globals, and it's going to be so hard for Astral Authority to pin anyone down and force a team fight if Imported Support doesn't want to take it.
Yeah, especially unless they hit Containment Strike. They have very little control about them here. And Lunara really doesn't add too much other than some slows, right?
No, she does not add the kill pressure. I mean, she's enough to where I think it's worthwhile to pick her up because that Ariel synergy at least will allow them to survive in the sustain war. But I'm really concerned that if Imported Support plays this right, they can just rotate Astral Authority into the ground.
And I feel like Lenora can maybe put enough pressure on the front line to maybe a Force of Will coming out, and then Li Ming suddenly has an opening to hit that combo if possible. So it's a bit of a different pick, but I do see where there is some viable situations where it does work out. But I agree, the main thing here is the Ariel and Lenora. You want to be able to pop at those heals, get the cooldown on the Q at level 1, and really just go for as much hope as possible.
All right, well, I mean, looking at how the two lineups stack up against one another, who are you really kind of giving, I'll say the same thing I always said to Todd, who are you giving sway to here in this last game to see who survives?
I feel like I'm getting a small bias towards Imported just a little bit because I feel bad. They got, what, 0-2 today. They finally have made it through in this matchup, and they're starting to show some signs of life here. And they have a comp that I think can work. I'm going to side with them a little bit here and, you know, give my heart to them, and hopefully they can pull it out.
You know, with no Chen on the side of Astral, it's really hard to side with them.
It's over. It's over already.
It's over for them. You know, they gave up their
did.
special advantage. But in all seriousness, I do think Imported Support does have the better draft for this map specifically. Given that it's Towers of Doom, I really like the draft from Imported Support. But I get the feeling Astral Authority will just play enough clean, better, to actually take the game because
Astral here is where the experience comes in, and hopefully can kind of trump what Imported is bringing here. I mean, I love the draft, but we've seen Astral over and over compete in these tournaments. Imported, we've seen nerds hit them, and this is the big stage right now. If Imported loses, they go home.
Yeah.
So that could definitely get to them.
All right, let's take a look at who is playing what here on Towers of Doom between Imported Support and Astral Authority. It will be Shot playing the Medivh, one of the most flexible players we've seen all tournament long, really, here. So who are you guys looking out for? Dunk, I'll start with you.
I'm going to be watching the Shot Medivh. I mean, honestly, it feels like in these pro games, Medivh can make or break the entire game, and, you know, how he plays is going to determine a lot of the success of his team.
Tricks?
I'm actually watching Equinox on Greymane. I want to see how he's going to make it work. I feel like there's a lot of things, a lot of tools here that can prevent him from being effective, and if he can make it work, he's going to be playing out of his mind here.
All right, it's time. Eat that pizza. Get ready for game number 3 as we go over to the Xfinity casting desk for Dread and J-How.
All right, Dreadnought, the crowd seems to be ready. Are you ready for game number 3 again? 2 completely different mindsets, double global and a Medivh on the side of Imported Support.
I mean, things get weird, you know? I think they thrived when they didn't go with a more traditional play style, and I think that's what they're looking at right now. So I like that on the side of Imported, but the Medivh, I think Dunk put it best. Shot's going to really have to play out of his mind. We saw him with some hero diversity, for instance. We saw him on the Vikings before. I wouldn't sit there and say that it was the most impressive Vikings I've seen. He didn't play it poorly, but I definitely was not necessarily inspiring either, as they have this kind of chaos-oriented composition, much like we saw out of Denial Esports.
Well, we see the duel in the beginning, and you can see they're instantly hopping onto Shot, who comes through there. That portal, it looks good, Dread.
It does.
It doesn't look as good when you go through the other side.
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of people on the other side of there. I do want to point out that I enjoyed that we did see Trees actually concentrate on using his spells on the entrance or exit, depending on how you look at one of the sides of the portal, so knowing that his opponents would be probably looking to make that happen. So that kind of foresight is something that it wasn't too influential at that point in the game, but it realistically could be something that carries his team later on. It's something a lot of teams don't do. Great stun there from Chimera onto HotS.
You know, I want to talk about that stun for Chimera because you're also going to have to look at Shot placing those portals. He placed that portal right down on the other side of a structure. When you got that detainment strike and you're able to push them up against it, you get much more value out of it. So I think that's one of the things that when you're playing a hero like that, you got to be careful as Equinox under assault, the rest of his team coming over, but you can see going in deep, those portals are allowing them to get out. And that's one of the things is you're going to have to, it's like the minimal things of the game that make huge impacts. And I think those are things that you'll have to look out for in this game.
I think the most important thing when looking at Imported's composition is we've seen a lot of Medivh, especially in Europe. There's going to be the portal he's going to get out. But when we saw in Europe, like they're dashing back and looking, throwing out a Q, not going to be hitting it, and doing it again, it's okay to be able to do these things once in a while, but it gets to a certain point to where it's just trying to be cute. It doesn't always work. And I think ADRD is a perfect example. We saw some situations where it was like, oh, that's adorable. Look at how fun it is to dance back and forth. But it's like, really, what are you doing for your team? And it needs to be a good middle ground. I think the most impressive, or one of the that I've seen so far, was definitely K1's version and interpretation. And I'd like to see a bit more like that coming out from Shot this game.
Well, he's going to be able to do stuff
very
like
early,
that.
Very early W.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't save it for any of the spells. Very big misplay on his part there. And that leads to a kill. And Drayden now running away with Hecarim J on the bottom half. And he ends up giving him shots in the upper half here, too. And they're going to win all 3 channels?
That is unbelievable when you talk about the fact that they, well, not just yet, as we see the jump in by Ignition, and down goes Falstad. So Equinox on the backside wreaking havoc. The polymorph is there. Hecarim, he's going to go down, but Greymane is probably oh, Greymane somehow gets out.
I've never seen that. I've never seen a shutout first phase.
It's I guess I haven't either. I'm sitting there like, it's pretty rare. Actually, no, it's completely rare because it's never happened.
Oh, he's going for the kill. Doesn't end up trying to get the port over the wall either to confirm the kill. Shot not going for it, but I think that was a perfect example. I know I kind of started out with like that, you know, how adorable it is and some of the cool and sweet things you can do, but it hits a certain point to it's like, you know, at what cost does it kind of provide? And I mean, opening up where I can stop the Li Ming, and it's like, yes, you can, but you have to think about how you're going to approach these things, because it's not just like, look at, I'm invincible, and you just throw out your W or your Q and it's all good and dandy. He dodged no damage, no portal was thrown out. He legitimately walked up, Q'd, got 1 shot.
Well, I mean, it goes back to another point you made at the very beginning, is that when you have Li Ming, you can commit resources to that portal, just the opening alone. Throw the magic missiles down, it's on a short cooldown, it doesn't use a ton of mana, but it actually is very effective because it does a lot of damage. We actually saw it a little while ago before that last fight, and you can do stuff like that. So when you start coming through, you start playing with fire, and that's one of the things that they're going to be punished if they continue to try and do stuff like that.
Yeah, but it only has cost them about half-level lead. Granted, that's with 12 shots moving on to the core as well, which is a lot more than I guess I expected to see. They're out of the first phase. 7 tier now got to be picked up for Astral Authority. Flash builds what we see. Dominance with Calamity and Splintered Spear as the level 7 there for Lunara.
Yeah, they've been all over that Splintered Spear, and maybe that's to be able to punish somebody as they come through. If you see a team coming through, multiple people coming through that portal, it allows you. But it's also something we've seen a little bit more of. Nature's Toxin not as popular today on these Lunara builds, but level 7 almost here for imported support at the meantime. Going to be curious to see if we're going to see that Master's Touch coming out from Medivh. It seems like he probably is going to commit to that.
I think we will, but I mean, it's pretty apparent that Shot's not nearly as comfortable as some of the other people we've already seen on the Medivh. I think I'm going to be very attentively looking at whether or not he's going to be able to complete that Master's Touch, as that is the route that he moves into here as his level 7, as we have another shrine spawning here, and Shot already getting the portal out, going to get the tap. He'll be back in just a matter of moments.
Yeah, he will be. And, you know, the panel talked about this a little bit early during the draft, is the fact that there's not a lot of hard CC on the side of Astral Authority, so no cleanse there. Hecarim, though, does get a little bit of stun coming against him, as you see the cocktail splash hitting that back line, doing quite a bit of damage as the orb almost gets the takedown. Ignition got to be very careful up on that front line, but there's Shot coming in on that backside, interrupting at least once. We're going to see if he's going to try and go back through. There's the magic missiles. There's the knockback.
Yeah.
Dread, you know, I talked about this a little bit when we talked about Warriors against Medivh. And I guess we should wait a minute to make this, as HotS in a lot of trouble. HotS in a lot of trouble being tracked down. Will the Soothing Mist keep him alive?
Believe
Frozen
in the passive.
X.
Believe in the passive. Believe in the passive. Here we go. Here we go. I believe in you. Oh, using the spells, getting the cooldown. Oh, my. Look at that.
That's plays.
Yeah, but you were talking about displacement when it comes to Medivh is the topic. And if you have a large amount of displacement when it comes to the portals themselves, then it puts it in a position to where only one entrance is really safe. And right there you saw an example where he goes through the portal, suddenly you get the displacement and CC coming out from the Ariel, and then Medivh gets 1 shot again. I mean, to be completely frank, that was beyond risky, even if there was no displacement, considering the amount of time remainder on the portal. But I mean, it's a really good topic point, and Ariel provides it. Not so much on the side of Johanna, a little bit, but not nearly as much as others.
I'll be curious, the wave coming out from Li Ming. That's another possibility.
That is. Wave of Force would actually be a really great tool as well, especially with Repulsion coming into play in the back or later half of this game. Battery, though, under pressure here. HotS going to be able to take the portal, trying to get the damage out. He's going to be all right, back out of the situation. And the team for now just getting level 10 here. Astral Authority closing in. This is such a bad spot for important support. They're trying to get the retreat. There's the Blessed Shield. Great force of will to be able to keep HotS alive for the time being. Shot now under pressure. That's going to be one reset. The Disintegrate over the wall confirms the kill with the... Oh my goodness. He ends up going down. That's a bell tower. And this is an insane 2-level lead and just complete control so far from Astral Authority.
It seemed like they weren't completely aware of the fact that level 10 was right on the doorstep for Astral Authority. They full committed on the fight. They didn't get the kill, and that was on to Battery, who was one of the most unkillable targets they could have gone after. And then they ended up getting caught in a bad spot. And now we have another altar. Level 10 not here for imported support. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to soak this enough. We see Draded up in the top. In the middle, they're going to try and get there, but I don't think they're going to get this. They're already down 16 shots. They could potentially be down 20. Level 10 right in the nick of time for imported support.
We see the polybomb option here from him. They have the positioning. They're going to be able to get the channel here. Leoric looking to get the flank scouted out by the Wisp in the mid lane here. They're getting the channel. Here comes Shot. Well, is he going to be as effective as he was in some of the other ones? I don't know. He's going to just feign it. There we go. And there's going to see Draded pushing on the upper half of the map the entire time here. So Shot's now sitting 19-40 in this game, and Medivh already, there goes the portal the wrong direction-ish. I don't know. He just confirmed his, oh my goodness, they're not going to move in and confirm the kill.
Wow.
All right, so that's going to be him getting out of it. Medivh barely going to be able to survive this, and Bell Tower slowly being sieged.
It's being sieged, and the aggression continues, and they are putting the pressure on as HotS continues to take damage. Shot just barely able to survive. It just seems like the comp, it looks good, but the effectiveness isn't quite there. The Pumpkin Sapper securing additional shots, Dreadnought, and that is another 3 shots. 40-16, a complete shutout right now. Draded, he's doing work in the top. He's going to be able to at least hopefully secure this. He's got to be careful of the rotation.
I mean, he looks like me when I got tilted. I just sat in the side lane, soaked until until my team stopped dying. And it's like, well, hopefully we can win the game in the later half because I'm just trying to make sure we don't fall too far behind. I'm not kidding. C9 used to joke about it. You can tell you won the game with Dread split pushing because as a support, it's not effective. I'm just soaking because my team's going to die. Oh, man. So, I mean, it's not looking very good mentality-wise here. Astral Authority has had just ridiculous control over the matchup. They need to approach these fights in a far different manner than we've seen. Medivh going in for the Rast, not the option, which, I mean, look at again. It's looking equally not as pretty there. Great blink, and he's going to be going down. Again, we need to see Leoric as the front line, the harass, keep the chaos, not this watch me as Medivh trying to get that poke.
I mean, it's almost impossible to keep that up, and yet it's happened a lot already, 9 kills to 0. It's like the complete opposite of what we saw last game, where Astral made a lot of the same mistakes, and they were punished for it. And then at the same time, we see Imported kind of doing the exact same thing that they just punished for. The Dwarf toss out, but Ignition, he's going to have to be very careful. Nice detainment strike, but no need to follow up there. And they are just playing this map perfectly. I mean, 2 more altars are spawning. Level 13 should be picked up, and here we go again. There's the damage. Leoric just barely able to survive, but they're continuing to put the pressure on as we see the Thornwood Vines coming out now from Frozen X. I'd be surprised if they even try and fight this. We see Equinox on one side being interrupted there by Shot. Hecarim just sitting there in the bushes waiting to come out. Frozen X has to be very careful as he comes in. The Aegis is now out. The damage is there. Down goes Leoric. The resets are there for Trees. He's following up. And Ignition, Lunara is putting the pressure on.
They're pushing for a 40-0 dream. At this point, Shot the entire time has been able to stop Equinox, but it was at the cost of the Leoric. There's no large amount of damage going out onto the team. Drade is taking too much. When we watch this style of composition from Denial to Astral Authority, the difference actually, Frozen X, they're getting a lot of DPS, should be body blocked here. As we see the flank from Hecarim J, that is a lot of damage. Good force of will as well. Shot now lishing. He had the shield for himself. Polybomb's only going to hit him as 3 people now on the retreat. Huge amount of heals there coming out from the Ariel here as imported support, just again, just running away, exported support at this point. It just, but again, when we look at it, comparing it, the Leoric Medivh style play from Denial to what we see out of the side of imported. it was King Caffeine was just a terror in the front line. And the minute you thought you could get onto him, he dropped his Wraith Walk, ended up somewhere else, ported somewhere else, came back. Suddenly they were just playing with you and the ability to self-heal. But this is Shot going on the solo adventure. He's looking to try and get those stacks on his own. And there is not anywhere near enough raw damage to really justify that style of play. It comes down to the chaos and all day. I mean, granted, they had other tools as well with Zeratul, but I just really don't like this approach that we see so far out of, imported support as the Aegis comes into play there.
Yeah, the Crystal's out. Now the Condemn coming in to try and secure a little bit of control on this fight. Lurik on the backside as the Blessed Shield is out. Muradin goes down. The Polybomb is out. It's going to spread a few members out, and then the disengage from the Mighty Gust, and then the Portal going to secure their safety, but they lost Muradin in the meantime, and that's another camp being picked up by Astral Authority. We're going to look for a possible invasion as Astral Authority coming in, forcing them off the point. This is going to be 2 waves of Pumpkin Sappers now going to be pushing towards this bottom bell tower.
Yeah, and we'll see if they try and get a couple of shots there as they move into the core. 16-tier advantage will be picked up after this bell tower, which means 6 of bell towers will exist in the hands of Astral Authority for a short period of time here. How many Sapphires do we have? That's going to be 3 here, moved up, and we have no Gust to be able to force the disengage. There's no major tool to really try and force it inside of Astral either, so it's going to come down to the dance. It's gonna be a position of only 3 for now. They get a reasonable amount of harass there onto Hecarim. He's taking way too much. He's trying to get it. They get rid of 1 Sapper. There we go. One's gonna be moving in. There's gonna be another as well. And now it is 6 shots left. 2 is all it needs for Astral Authority to be able to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is they're on their last leg. They can't afford to give up 2. I mean, 1 is basically deadly enough, but this is potentially 2.
This game, no, it's not going to be game yet. I would have liked to see Astral Authority Battery move to the top right, then move somebody else top left, making them panic over all 3 rather than just 2. Far easier response on the side of Imported, which means there goes 5 shots, 1 health left onto the core here as the fight is going to happen on the bottom half of the map here. Deny on the side of the upper right by the Falstead here, and he's not going to be into play. Huge Aegis though. The proc there is going to confirm 1 kill onto Leoric, and this is just getting ugly. Imported support slowly is going to be falling there. That's 2 kills. The portal is not going to matter at this point. That's GG here. I mean, Astral Authority, absurdly convincing win. I mean, at least Imported, you know they got 1 channel. You got to give them that much.
It was almost a shutout, and hey, why not just kill a few more people for good measure? That is 17 kills to 0, and that is GG. A little bit anticlimactic in game number 3 as we saw Medivh get completely punished. Congratulations to Astral Authority. They're going to be moving on to face Gale Force in the Decider match, Dreadnought. That is a matchup when you look at experience. Astral Authority has the type of experience. I think if they can kind of pull things together the way they did in this last game, they have a chance going into the Decider match.
I think they have to clean quite a bit up, but I agree. I think there is an opportunity as long as they stay true. I think Gale Force right now looks like a team that can be outdrafted. And as long as they get the right style of compositions, keep their play very clean, a little less panic than we saw in the last series, there may be an opportunity for them to get a colossal upset. I mean, it would be absolutely ridiculous to see that, making North American history essentially if they were able to do this. And what I guess we're going to have to find out as we move on to the next series. But very well played. Imported support, honestly, they put up a far better fight in that series than I expected them to. I thought it was going to be very convincing in favor of Astral Authority. I mean, even taking to game 3 was something I never even thought was possible.
I mean, we saw game number 2, they brought things together. I mean, things look really good for them in game number 2, and you can see they tried to commit here and tried to get anything out of it, not able to secure the kill on Frozen X, and Falstad punished for it as Equinox was a terror on Greymane, and that's what he's known to do, is be on heroes that can get to that back line and really do damage, and he did just that.
Yeah, he did a very good job ending that match, and it just slowly snowballed completely out of their favor. Shot ended up trying to get some harass as best as he could in the team, ended up going down 6 times that entire match, more than every other player, and the deaths were 17-0 sadly, but I mean, huge plays at the end. But that's going to be it for us here, guys. We have Equinox with oh my goodness, Jake with an interview with Equinox to find out how they feel about that win.
Alrighty, guys, I'm here with Equinox. Congratulations, my friend. And Equinox, you're a player that came out of DreamHack Austin, announced his retirement for 1 full event. Now you're back, but you're playing different heroes. You used to be known for the melee assassins. Now you're playing a lot of Johanna, a little Sergeant Hammer. What's the reasoning behind the change?
I think most of the reasoning is because melees aren't really that meta. They're kind of meta, but they're mostly draft reliant. So I just play whatever's best for the team now. Doesn't really matter what I like as long as we win.
Do you think that Hammer's in like a decent spot? Because I mean, we've seen you guys play Hammer. Murlocs have played Hammer. Suddenly, is that the new hotness?
I think Hammer's in a really good spot right now. She has a lot of auto damage. She's kind of like the auto damage of Greymane, just a little bit slower. And she also has a siege mode potential, so if you want to fight, you just siege wherever you want, do whatever you want. So I think she's just a good pick right now, but she's still draft reliant because she gets bodied by a lot of like stuff like Li Meng.
Well, you are one match away from qualifying for Sunday, qualifying for playoffs, and it's against Gale Force Esports. What do you put your chances at for defeating them?
I'd say our chances are like 60, 70%. I'm not too worried. As long as we do good in draft and don't die, I think we'll win.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we've got Astral Authority versus Gale Force Esports coming up for our final match of the night. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a bit.